Wednesday, July 29th. I'm Rem.
I'm Scott.
And this is Geeknights. Tonight, our long-awaited coverage of Otakon 2009.
Let's do this.
Oh shit, it's Geeknights. We're back.
We were back Monday.
We were back, but it was Monday, Neckbeard Night. Not everyone listens to that, and this is the night everyone was waiting for, I guess.
Isn't it? I think there's a problem though, and it's like this constant battle. It's like we could have done this episode earlier, but we stick to the schedule.
Yep.
But sticking to the schedule means we're not going to be timely.
Yep.
So I feel like, if we were timelier, it would have been better, but
in some ways, but at the same time, I feel like the slightly faded memory of the convention kind of crystallizes the things that matter, and the stuff that doesn't matter falls to the wayside.
I guess.
Plus, schedule, no schedule. If we did shows whenever we have an idea, we do like 10 shows in a row and then like have a month of nothing.
Well, we could record the 10 shows in a row and just put them out.
We could, but we've never successfully done that. The one time ever we were ahead on shows, we were like 2 weeks ahead. We just stopped doing shows and put them all up, and that was the end of that.
It sure was. Plus, the newses aren't timely.
Yeah, but, we had our usual after Otakon week of awesome, but sadly, Scott and Emily had to go back to Beacon and work in the city while I went to the week of awesome.
It's all right.
But what we did do, and people who know me might go, why did Rim do this? We watched all of the new X-Men cartoon. And now you might be thinking, but Rim, don't you hate superheroes?
Now, if you watched the old X-Men cartoon, I would have been like, oh, that's understandable.
The new X-Men cartoon, Wolverine and the X-Men, is fantastic.
I can't say. I've not seen it, but I will, of course, I'm very skeptical.
Pretty much everyone, all of us, was excited about it. We watched the whole thing in almost one go.
Really? Is it
Yeah.
so the show is over? Or
Well, no, season 1 is over. And season 1, the plot kind of goes from oh shit, it's Wolverine to oh shit, it's Wolverine.
So is it, how long is the season? It's not it's not an anime, right?
It's like 13, 14 episodes, I think.
That's it? Oh, okay.
I think. I'm pretty sure. There didn't seem like there were that many.
So it's like a South Park season?
Something like that.
Yeah. All right.
But I liked it.
Okay. So you want to
Yeah,
talk
we should
about
talk about
Connecticon?
it. So we did a show, and then we disappeared and went to Otakon, and now we're back, and we're going to Connecticon this weekend. So
Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, which is
Friday, July 31st, Saturday, August 1st, and Sunday, August 2nd. We will be at Connecticon at the Hartford Convention Center in Hartford, Connecticut. Connecticon's not really an anime con. It's kind of a...
It's an everything con. Right on the front of the con book, they say everything but the kitchen
Even
sink.
though, while it's an everything con, it's basically an anime con, a webcomic
It's
con.
not even that much an anime con. I mean, there's anime fans and this cosplay, but there's really not that much anime content.
Well, there's a ton of anime screening rooms that has all the accoutrement of an anime con.
Yeah, but mostly it's a webcomic con because there's a ton of webcomic guests.
It's also a better gaming con than most gaming cons in the
It's a pretty
general
great
New York
gaming
City
con.
area.
The board game, tabletop roleplay, miniatures, collectible card is strong. There's a dealer's room. I guess the dealer's room has a lot of anime merchandise. There's an artist alley, which, I guess is somewhat anime related. There's a video game room, which is kind of good. And there's sci-fi type guests, the kinds you'll see at, a sci-fi con.
Yeah,
So,
but also usually a lot of voice actors and a lot of webcomic artists and us being
yes,
there.
it's actually going to be real easy to talk about what we're doing at this con because we don't have to list all our panels
All right.
because...
I think I can sum this up. Panel 5 from 10:30 a.m.
I love
on
how
Friday.
they gave us panel 5 because that means I can do.
Yes. Oh my God.
Panel 5. Panel 5.
I'm excited about that. When I saw that, I was ready. I gotta get the table 5.
Just get it
wave.
from YouTube. Just goes through.
Yeah.
Table 5.
But
Table
we're
5.
going to be running every event in panel 5, either running personally or presenting from 10:30 a.m. on Friday until like 5:30 on Sunday.
For as long as the con goes, if there's ever anything you're not sure what to do, come to panel 5. We will be in there doing something, or another front row crew person will be in there doing something, or Luke Crane / Jared Sorensen will be in there doing
also,
something.
Uncle Yo's going to be in there. And the thing is, you look at all the other panel rooms, our room is dense compared to the rest of them.
So, Connecticon is an everything awesome con. We are running an entire room at this con. And also, Jared, we're bringing, as I said already, we're bringing Jared Sorensen and Luke Crane with us. And I guess at their prerogative, they will be running many RPG-type demo games, while we are doing panels in Panel 5, and also other front row crew peoples will be running many Burning Wheels and other tabletop role-playing games. So this, Connecticon, this is your opportunity, if you live near Connecticon, to come and...
3 days of Rim and Scott.
3 days of Rim and Scott and Front Row Crew and Burning Wheel and everything else that's awesome. So
Plus, a lot of people email us all the time about the Beyond Dungeons & Dragons panel, and this is the penultimate time we are doing that panel. We will try to film it, but if you really wanted to see it...
I thought we were doing it thrice more.
Thrice? Oh, crap. Well...
Because we're doing it.
I will count both PAXs as one con. We're good.
All right. Because we're doing it at Connecticon, PAX West, and one more time, and then PAX East, and then the panel is over.
And well, between those 3, I think we'll video it 3 times. And if we don't get a good take from that, I give up.
Yeah, we should have videotaped the Otakon one.
Yeah, we should have.
If anyone videotaped that, YouTube it over. That'd be nice. All right.
So let's be quick on the anime, manga, comics news.
The thing is, right, we're usually at a loss for anime, manga, comics news. Sometimes we'll do a Geek Bite instead. But because it was San Diego Comic-Con and Otakon, there's a pile of it. So
Not to mention the extra week where we didn't even do shows.
Yep. So let me just do 2 from San Diego real quick, right? One of them requires explanation. One of them really doesn't. Number 1, Hall H at San Diego Comic-Con was a fiasco.
I heard great tell of this. I didn't really read any of the news.
Basically, Hall H is this big room where they have a video screen and they do panels, and mostly it's Hollywood showing shit off. So you can go in there and see trailers and previews of all sorts of things that, before you're going to see them on the internet or anywhere else.
Yep, like Avatar
Hollywood,
and Kick-Ass.
Yeah, Hollywood type stuff, right? So it's not I'm sure it's leaked on the internet now, but if you wanted to see it first, that was the place.
The line for this room,
what happened here was, San Diego Comic-Con, even though it's a Hollywood con, traditionally the audience for the con is nerds and I guess people in the industry, right? You don't really get normal people coming to San Diego Comic-Con too often. They go, but not in great quantities. However, there was Twilight shit going down.
Oh.
And the words got out, and apparently a bajillion Twilight chicks came to San Diego Comic-Con just because of Twilight, and they wanted to see some Twilight shit and some Twilight people in Hall H. So what did they do? They basically got to San Diego Comic-Con, lined up for Hall H, got into Hall H, and the room never cleared. So those Twilight people stayed in Hall H, and they never left until the Twilight thing happened.
2 points.
And then the Avatar thing, wait. According to the Angry Video Game Nerd, who was there with Spike TV, right, doing stuff, I guess because he has a contract with them.
I remember we saw his first video, and there's that crazy line behind him.
In his second video, he showed his journey to Hall H. He wanted to see the Avatar in Hall H, which he knew was after the Twilight. So he figured all the Twilight people would leave and he would get in, even though the line was long, right? But no, the Twilight people didn't leave. They stayed in there, and he was shut out right before the door.
Just like Mike Toole.
And he didn't get to see the Avatar trailer and such, but he did get in to see some other shit in there.
I have 2 points of order. Point the first, there's an XKCD that's basically about that.
One thing I do want to say the Angry Video Game Nerd said, James Rolfe said, is that, at an amusement park, the line is long, but that if you get in the line, you're guaranteed to eventually ride the ride. Not so. And I think that's a problem.
Well,
right?
my second point, this is a much more important one, and considering we're doing our review of Otakon 2009 and our coverage of that, it's worth noting that cons like Otakon solved that problem more than a decade ago. Whenever there are big events or a room like that, they clear the room between every panel.
And
so you've got to
seeing
pick
as Hall
one.
H, everything is a big event, they should have cleared the room between every single thing.
So SDCC, now you fucked up.
Yeah.
Now you fucked up.
Okay, news number 2. This is a little bit of complicated news. People don't know the backstory, so I'm going to keep it short, and I'm probably going to get some stuff wrong, but it doesn't matter, all right? Here's the deal. Back in the olden days of comic books, there was a comic book called Marvel Man, right? And it was a golden age, corny-ass comic book, whatever. And the rights to Marvel Man were all disputed, and who knows, right? Because it's Marvel Man, but it wasn't owned by Marvel Comics, or was it, and whatever, right? At some point, there was a comic book called, they couldn't call it Marvel Man. Well, I think they did call it Marvel Man in the UK. But in the US, it was called Miracle Man, right? By Alan Moore / Neil Gaiman. And apparently it's this great comic book. And I really don't have doubts about that because the names Alan Moore and or Neil Gaiman are on it. And the thing is, this ran into also some sorts of legal troubles. And there was actually a court case like Neil Gaiman versus Todd McFarlane and who owns the rights to this thing and blah, 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 right? And what happened over time was people would like dig through the bins at comic conventions trying to look for Miracle Man issues. And they go, now if you try to buy it, it goes for like $1 bajillion. One guy got all the issues and he bound them together in a hardcover book, with the library binding company. And he sold that on eBay for like $1 bajillion.
So has someone just scanned this in? Is there a torrent?
I'm gonna go. I feel totally validated in going to find a torrent, and now that I'm gonna go look for one after the show because whatever. The thing is, the news from San Diego is that Marvel definitely has the rights to Marvel Man. They bought them from the original Marvel Man creator. So this now brings back all these questions of, is the Miracle Man going to be re-released in a nice trade, hardcover, omnibus, whatever it is, right? We're getting close to those times.
Here's the trouble. They might have to broach this carefully because how many people who collected that are going to be angry if it gets re-released?
Well, fuck them. It's all about
I
everyone
agree.
being able to read the
I
great
agree,
card.
but
that's not Marvel's concern. Because Marvel doesn't make any money off that. Their concern is they very much want to be able to publish or reprint Miracle Man, which will sell like crazy in trade and hardcover, making Marvel a ton of money. They couldn't give a shit about the collectors who paid a lot of money for it. Now, the thing is, there's still issues with Todd McFarlane, Gaiman, Moore. Miracle Man isn't the same as Marvel Man. What's going to happen? Question mark. All I can say is I'm hopeful that this supposedly and probably amazing comic book will be read by me at a reasonable price.
But anyway, we have a lot to cover for Otakon, so things of the day. The AMV contest was pretty good. It wasn't the best AMV contest at Otakon, but I'm seeing
Well, we didn't even see the whole contest, of course. We only see the winners as we do.
The secret of Otakon is that if you want to see the AMVs, skip the entire AMV contest.
It takes too long and it sucks.
But go to closing ceremonies. You will see all the best AMVs. And even if the crowd is stupid and they vote for bad ones, it doesn't matter because the staff will almost always pick the one unknown or neglected video and put it in there. That's how we saw 2525, and that is how we saw the Krauser video. My thing of the day is the last anime music video that won an award at the AMVs at Otakon 2009. Because, surprisingly, despite the popularity of Detroit Metal City, there was basically zero DMC at Otakon. I didn't see a single cosplayer.
There was not. There might have been. Everyone I've talked to about Otakon, reports seeing different cosplayers. Some people saw 100 Michael Jacksons.
I saw 3.
Some people's right. I asked the audience at one panel, who here's seen Avash the Stampede? And everyone raised their hand. And I'd be like, I seen 0. And then after that, I saw 1. And I was like, wow. But other people saw 10. So, it's just the con is so big and people move in such patterns that, everyone is going to have a different perception of the quantities of which characters are cosplayed. And the only way to actually figure it out would be to, count or have people write it down or, some sort of real scientific study.
But as far as I can see, no one dressed up as Krauser.
There was not nearly enough Krauser, definitely.
But one thing I can say is that, we went to the Vamps concert on Thursday, and I didn't realize until after it that what's his name, the guitarist who was playing with Hyde, he did the guitar part for the opener to DMC. And apparently he likes DMC.
How could you not like DMC?
Well, of course. That's beside the point. But there's no Krauser this whole con other than arguably Daryl
it's like
Surratt.
I was actually, before the con, I was sort of thinking, what anime do I really want to see, busting out at the con? I'm like, I'd like to see some DMC. I'd like to see some Krauser cosplays. I'd like to see some, that sort of stuff. Maybe some Krauser merchandise in the, dealer's room if I can get that really good
something else
Revoltech Krauser that everyone
you don't
has.
see a lot? I saw one JoJo, but you really don't see any Fist of the North Star cosplay.
It's not an easy cosplay. No one's really...
You gotta be big.
Yeah.
Or you gotta be really tiny with huge
Dude,
eyebrows.
we should go as Fist of the North Star peasants.
Yes.
Anyway, but the thing is, I didn't see Krauser the whole con, and I stopped thinking about it. And then at the closing ceremonies, this Krauser video comes up, and I'm like,
end of the AMV contest,
yes, go to DMC.
There's no Krauser, no Krauser, no Krauser. I've resigned myself to a Krauserless Otakon, and then this pretty good music video plays. So it's worth watching. If you don't know what DMC is, this will make you realize that it's great.
Krauser. All right.
Oh my God. He killed his parents.
In Return from Hell. All right. My thing of the day is not actually anime, manga, comic related, but whatever.
Awesome.
It's this thing called Pixlr. It's a web-based Photoshop, basically, but it's not quite Photoshop, but it's not quite the GIMP. It's sort of like, it's better than MS Paint, and it has features, it has a nice UI, and it's in your browser, and it's free, and it's really good for, like, you can use the Firefox extension, and let's say you're on a website, and you see an image, and you want to edit it real quick, maybe, like, paste a face into it or something, you can just use the Firefox extension, open the image right up, edit it real quick, and then, save it, paste it, whatever, and you're all good. So it's a handy tool for image editings on the internets.
So, the moment you've all been waiting for, Otakon 2009. We've been going to Otakon every year since 2002.
7 years, 8 years, because it's including the O2?
I've been doing panels at Otakon since 2002.
Right. Sometimes surreptitiously. Yes, that's the
Only
word.
one of my panels at Otakon was me taking over a panel that the person who was supposed to run it didn't show up for.
Also, for many of the years, the only panel that was done was the Club Summit, and that was
It's
it.
funny, you look at the con resume, it's like Anime Club Summit, Anime Club Summit, Anime Club Summit. And then we busted out with Gekiga, and then after that, it was just crazy panels every year.
Yep. So, I think this, I like to follow a chronological structure, not because I think that makes a good show, but because it's easy for me to remember everything that happened at the con if I go chronologically.
I think it gives us a more narrative style. We kind of pull ourselves out of the meta.
However, I think that it would be a good idea if we take, like, the big hitting parts of the con,
Wait,
the
you
big
think?
deals.
Hey, all right, Scott. So just before we do the show, I'm like, so Scott, here's my idea.
I agree. I didn't say I came up with the idea. I said I think it would be a good idea, as in I agree with the idea that you came up with.
It's my idea.
That's fine.
Getting it out
You
there.
can have the credit, but I think it's a good idea if we take the big hitting topics that we have to talk about, get those out of the way, and then do a nice, easy chronology. Because usually if you go straight into the chronology, it's like you go, and then you spend way too much time on something. You go, right? And it's sort of, it's not fluid.
The other
so if
thing
we move
is
the
that-
big things to the front, then the chronology will be nice and smooth.
Well, more importantly, the big things we want to talk about are pretty much the only negative things we have to say about Otakon this year.
Yeah, I mean, Otakon, as always, is the second biggest anime con in the U.S. It's totally awesome, and there's always just a few problems that glare, and everything else is totally a great time. Otherwise, why the hell would I keep paying all this money to go every year?
But we don't pay for badges. But
Well, don't pay for badges. We pay a lot of money for the hotel and the driving and the,
Damn you, Renaissance.
And we pay vacation days. I mean, I took unpaid days to go down there, so.
That's harsh.
It's all right.
But the other reason is that with the sort of narrative chronological thing, and by cutting out the major bad things, it's very easy for people like us who've been going to conventions forever to dwell on the things that stand out to us, which are the bad things. And it's very easy to get a very negative impression if we just talk about the things that stand out.
I mean, remember, it's true. You're getting an impression of the con from people who've been to it 7 times. Someone who went, this is their first Otakon, was probably blown away and was like, holy shit, this is crazy.
And
awesome.
I remember back when we had friends who had still not yet gone to Otakon, we'd always have this ritual of like, all right, you haven't been to this con before. All right, close your eyes, and we take him into the dealer's room, like into the middle, and we'd be like, open your eyes and spin in a circle.
I mean, the dealer's room, it might not have the best stuff anymore, but it's still gigantimous.
I mean, especially the first time you see it, you're not expecting that. You're not expecting it to be...
Rim hates ginormous. I thought I could piss him off more with gigantimous.
Gigantimous is okay. It's more cromulent, I think, than ginormous.
You think? I don't think so. Anyway.
Because gigantimous reeks of hippopotamus. And hippopotamus is okay in any capacity.
All right. Anyway.
So the other reason, the narrative, is that I've learned that about a third of the people who listen to our con reviews haven't gone to the con. They want to find out what they missed. But it seems like most of the people who listen to our con reviews, and I get this impression from a lot of other people who cover conventions.
They were at the con and they just want to reminisce.
They just want a replay of the con for nostalgia purposes. So there you go.
All right. So the big hitters. What's big hitter number one from Otakon 09?
For the first time, I always praise Otakon that while mailing away badges is difficult, and I understand why fan-run conventions generally don't do it, and I've always forgiven Otakon for that because they handle their pre-reg line to a degree that is staggering. And even now, despite the problems, they process more than 10,000 people on Thursday night for a bunch of volunteers. That's pretty amazing. Like that, props to Otakon for the fact that they're able to handle that many registrations per second continuously. But
it's not enough.
well, every year you have been able to show up at the reg line after a few hours of it being open and just kind of breeze through and get your badge.
I know,
This year,
I feel bad because we told everyone the strategy that worked in all the years past. Don't wait in the reg line Thursday or just show up to the reg line on Thursday at like 8 or 9 p.m. And by then, the line will have cleared out. You can just walk in, get your badge, walk out without any waiting.
For the first time ever, the line was interminable. The line was a disaster. There were just so many people in line, and it never abated. And Otakon says that they cut the line off at the end. They got everyone in who showed up Thursday night to get their badge. But I saw numerous reports of people who were turned away from the line near the end as they brought the line inside and shut the doors. And a lot of people wanted badges on Thursday who couldn't get them.
Mm-hmm. So I guess I didn't see that, so I don't know which way it is, but I'll believe either story.
But
that doesn't matter. The point is, that there was no point at which you could walk in, get your badge, and walk out, which means the line was not processed quickly enough on Thursday, regardless of whether people were shut out or not.
It's getting out of hand. Otakon is too big. And the thing is, people who didn't get their badge on Thursday or couldn't show up on Thursday, Friday was even worse trying to get your badge.
And Emily forgot to pre-reg. Oh.
Yeah, non-pre-reg people and pre-reg people were in mostly the same boat, though. So it's not like you were really any better off if you didn't get the badge on Thursday.
Actually, if you think about it, right, there were 17,000 pre-reg, and they said, 26,000-ish total, which means 9,000 reg. But you got to think, those 9,000 reg, most of them were there all at once. So that was a line of 9,000. If you assume the pre-reg was split half-half Thursday, Friday, then that's what, so
8,500, which is still too many.
Yeah, that's 8,500 each.
Here's what it comes down to.
The lines are about equal.
Here's what it comes down to. One, this cannot stand. It's getting out of hand. It's only going to get worse. It's never going to get better. And I don't think Otakon can handle the line better than they already do. I don't think there's
the one way they could do it is if they also set up reg booths in another place and had just like twice or 3 times as many reg booths.
And that's not going to happen.
That's not going to happen, because where are they going to put them? They can't put them in the fountain lobby, and there really isn't another lobby. Now, and the Hilton doesn't have a space for that.
From a selfish perspective, I'll just point out that Otakon is the only convention we go to where they make us wait in line for anything. I mean, we do a million panels at all these cons, and we always talk about the perspectives, how if you're a panelist or you're a staffer or you're in the dealer's room or the artist alley, you have a very different kind of view of the con, and all the structures of the con are very different for you. For us, Otakon is the only convention we ever go to where we have to stand in lines. And it's getting to the point to where it's actually very difficult for us to manage having to stand in this line just to have the privilege of doing panels at this con.
Mm-hmm.
And the only reason it was bearable this year was that we went to the Vamps concert, and they gave anyone who went to the Vamps concert who had a ticket cut to the front of the line pass. So we were among the first 5 people to get badges for Otakon.
I know, it's Thursday. People have been waiting in line for hours. We have tickets to this concert, and we just walk right up and get our badges immediately.
Yep, Scott was
the
person who tweeted out the badge picture right away because they didn't put up the placards of badges like they usually do.
Yeah, I think that actually slowed the line down some, because people would get up to the registration desk and look and pick out a badge at that point in time, rather than if they had the placards up with the badge designs, people would decide while they were waiting in line and then just walk up and be like, badge 3. Well, I guess some undecisive people would still have a problem.
Well, the thing is, Otakon is the only major convention I know of that lets you even pick a badge.
And picking the badge is nice. It's a cool thing. It's fun. But is it really worth waiting in line hours and hours
Here's
and
the
hours?
Thing. Even if it takes 10 seconds for someone to pick their badge and to deal with all the logistics of people picking their badges, 10 seconds times 17,000 pre-regs, that's unacceptable now. That's already, you're going to get a significant return by cutting that out.
I think what they should do is either A, not have, badges you can choose from anymore, right? B, they could have they could make all this badge art with the Otakon mascots, and sort of you get a random one, or, that'd be kind of fun. Or C, right, part of the badge could be sort of like this standard badge, and part of the badge would be blank, and then you could fill in that blank part of the badge with whatever you want. You could get someone to draw something on it in an artist alley, you could bring some art to put there, you could put stickers there, and the other part of the badge would be the unforgeable uniform part, so that you would know you had a real badge.
The other solution, and to jump very far forward into our coverage, the con feedback session, this was echoed at the con feedback session, and every time someone brought it up, and it was brought up numerous times, the crowd cheered louder than I've ever heard a crowd cheer at a con feedback session.
Yep. I mean, I remember in years past when people recommended mailing the badges,
And the audience would be like,
the
no,
audience would be
can't
like,
be done.
the audience would be like, yeah, maybe, and the excuses sort of were like, okay. But this year, when they said mail the badges, everyone was like, yes, mail the badges.
And the thing is, it got to the point to where I think the second or third person who went up and was like, look, mail the badges out. And Otakon's response was, well, no other fan-run con does. And that person was like, PAX does, Anime Central does.
San Diego Comic-Con does, New York Anime Festival does, New York Comic-Con does.
Well, those are
San Diego
fan-run.
Comic-Con is nonprofit,
But,
even though it has a large industry presence.
But Scott, New York Comic-Con, New York Anime Festival are not fan-run.
I'm just saying.
Those
is that,
are read exhibitions for profit.
I know that. I'm just saying is that
McVentions.
even though they're for-profit, non-profit, whatever, right? The fact is that Otakon is larger than those conventions, and even though it may not have more resources than it spends because it's not for profit, it has that size of resource, and therefore should be able to do it.
Now, we're not going to dwell on this any further because we'll have to do a separate show on this. I emailed Anime Central. I'm trying to get all the different cons and get all their takes on it.
I think that PAX just contracts it out to someone.
Well, here's my thing. I don't care how Otakon does it. I feel like Otakon should, whatever it takes, Otakon should mail out the badges.
Yep. They have some valid excuses and they have some other excuses which I think are just excuses. But regardless of whether they are valid or not, the fact is that it is possible, even though it may be difficult, and pretty much they have to conquer that difficulty and do it no matter how difficult it is. Even if it was harder than climbing Mount Everest 10 times in a row, they have to do it anyway. Tough shit. Just do it.
Well, the thing is, even if Otakon doesn't have the manpower, which they don't, they clearly don't, they can't get that much staff to show up
in
and
the
do
off
it.
season. Yeah, it's just not going to happen.
They should just work it into the budget, pay a company to just handle it, and that's the end of that. But corollary to that, here's a quote from an Otakon staffer. ... Since badges are so commonly lost, I personally replaced over 250 lost badges this weekend. Now, right there, Otakon should not replace a lost badge.
Under
unless you
any
pay.
circumstances should there ever be a badge replaced. If you lose your badge, it's the tough shit rule. You pay $65 to get a new one. Sorry. If I lose my baseball ticket at Chase, at like a city field, they're gonna kick my ass out.
And the thing
I'm
is,
not gonna give me a replacement ticket.
all across the anime convention circuit, I see more and more cons saying, look, no replacements, you got to pay. Anime Boston is like that.
If you lose your San Diego Comic-Con ticket, you think they give you a replacement? If you lose your Vamps concert ticket, you think they're going to let you in? Because you'd be like, oh, I lost my ticket. Can I get a replacement?
And I feel like every excuse that Otakon has to not do it really falls flat in light of all the evidence that they have to do it. There's no excuse for this. It's only going to get worse. And imagine the resources that would be saved in terms of manpower and frustration if they didn't have to do the get your badge lineup.
Well, they would still have the, buy your badge lineup day of con. But think about these resources that would be saved. And actually, I got it. This is don't start a conspiracy theory about this, right? But it is true, right? A lot of people buy Thursday night hotel rooms to get in the Thursday pre-reg line. That makes the city of Baltimore and surrounding hotels a lot of money. If they mailed the badges, I would show up Friday morning. I wouldn't show up no Thursday night, and that would hurt Baltimore. And I'm not suggesting there's any conspiracy there or anything along those lines, but if Otakon actually cares about its members most, then it could save us a lot of money by mailing the badges and thus saving us the trouble of having to stay in Baltimore an extra day and spending another day's worth of parking costs, days worth of eating out dinner costs, another vacation day at work, and another day of hotel room.
But we're not going to dwell on it. We're going to do other shows in the future. We'll talk about this a lot. But Otakon, you have to, this is no longer acceptable. It is just out of control, and it is definitely doable.
Would you not go if they didn't mail the badges next year?
Well, here's the thing. I don't know if I would be willing to wait in that line, regardless of what we were doing.
Yeah,
at the
I think if I
convention.
could skip the line because of my not so special status, I would still go. But if I had to wait in that line and they didn't mail the badges, I might not go to Otakon next year. Unless there's some crazy, crazy, crazy guest that I just can't miss, a Yumi or something like that.
But anyway, we don't want to dwell on that because Otakon was super awesome this year. But major problem the second, and this is such a multifaceted issue that we have to talk about.
Well, it's tied into the first issue a little bit also.
Well, it's more tied into 4 or 5 issues that followed from it because it'll all come down to the root cause. But Daryl Surratt, the infamous Daryl Surratt, he's awesome. He's the Anime World Order guy, one of the three people. And he did a panel with us. And he tried to, he gave us all these videos for Know Your Creators. He's like, I want to show all these which director was it? Crazy guy?
The Ninja Scroll guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's going to yell at us
Goku.
now. We're rank amateurs,
Midnight
as he
Eye
says.
and such.
Yes, all right.
And he sent us all these videos right before the con to show. And
They were good videos.
but almost all of them included a female breast. And
well, it wasn't just that they contained a breast,
A
it's that
nipple.
they showed a nipple or two.
I was first like, Daryl, we can't show these. It's Otakon.
It's Otakon, and not only is it Otakon, it's 10 a.m. on Friday in a non-18 plus panel. We can't show a nipple.
So
Not that I personally have an objection to it, but we'll get in trouble. I mean,
Daryl
we got in
Surratt-
trouble for showing, Rape Man at an 18 plus panel, which is perfectly legitimate.
Yep. And I still point out to this day, Otakon showed Ebola syndrome. That nothing I could do could ever top that.
I do think that's kind of crazy is that Otakon will show Ebola syndrome in an 18 plus video room, but they won't allow content that's even close to that level of nastiness, right, in one of its panel rooms, also 18 plus.
Well, the thing is, they did allow the panel. We didn't get in trouble.
No, but they did call us in and yell at
Well,
they
no,
didn't
they-
yell at us, but
I think
they
they-
were concerned.
I think they yelled
Yet they
at
were not
Gerald.
concerned about Ebola syndrome.
The thing is, I think they yelled at Gerald because we kind of threw him under the bus. We were like, yeah, that other guy brought that video. I don't know.
It doesn't matter. Everyone got away with it.
But anyway,
It was all good.
Daryl
and it's a good
Surratt
story.
had a panel titled Anime's Craziest Deaths.
I wanted to see this panel real bad, but I'm sure I can just get Daryl to send me all the videos.
The line for this panel caused an enormous problem at Otakon. It blocked the entire 300 level for a while.
Well, first of all, they put in panel 3, and this shows that they did not put quite enough thought into which panels go into which rooms. They obviously put some thought into it, but not enough, because I think regardless of, it might be difficult to guess on other panels how many people want to show up, but if something is called Anime's Craziest Deaths, I mean, that is obviously needs to go in the biggest available panel room, right? There's just no question. That is going to get a huge line.
And
they put it in a big room, but not the biggest room.
The line was like, I'm not exact. Scott kind of cut in the line, and I went all the way to the end of the line to see what was going on.
I would have put that in the panel 6 in the Hilton.
There were, and I'm not exaggerating, thousands of people in line to see this. Thousands.
The room only held a few hundred.
And people and every person in that line was super excited about it. This was gonna be like the biggest thing.
And
at
somehow,
Otakon.
when they closed the door and didn't let anyone else in,
Mike Toole.
It was Mike Toole, me, and a whole bunch of FRC type peoples all right at the front.
Mike Toole was the very front person in the line. I came over and I was like, "You didn't get in?" He's like, "Yeah. What are the odds?"
Right? So it's like we're all standing there. It's like, wow.
So
It happens to be us, the friends of the panelists, can't get into the panel.
So we all agree to bail. We're like, all right, let's just go get lunch.
Of course,
the end of that.
that's the obvious strategy. You can't waste your time at a Otakon where you have such a, your time is limited there. Spend it. It's precious.
So 15 minutes later, I'm standing out there and I get an SMS to the effect
that was when
of,
we were hanging with the Princess Tutu cosplayer.
yes, we'll talk about them in the chronology.
Yes.
To the effect of, the panel was shut down, WTF.
And I was like, yeah, no, it was shut down. It filled up. They were like, no, it got shut down. Like they kicked everyone out of the room and the panel was over. And I'm like, what?
Now,
The only times I've heard of that are the 4chan panel and another panel that also happened this year.
here's the high-level overview. Otakon decided the panel was not appropriate for non-18 plus content, so they shut it down immediately, and they gave no recourse to have it rerun or scheduled later or anything. It was done. They gave no option of fixing
No
it.
warning, no.
No option of, shows things that don't violate the rule. They basically just shut it down, and there was no appeal whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to say right now, before we get into the details of it, that all things considered, I can't blame Otakon for shutting the panel down. And while they could have handled that aspect of it better, I agree with Otakon shutting down the panel.
Yeah, I mean, obviously they had to do something, right? They could have done something better, but this was obviously a satisfactory thing. It's not something you can say you shouldn't have done that.
Now,
because
problem the first.
That was,
There were so many empty slots in the panel schedule because Otakon did not fill their panel level. In fact, when we went to check in for our panels, the panel guy was like, yeah, can you guys do some more panels?
No.
Yeah, we refused to, but they had a lot of open play. They could have trivially put this in like the panel room between our two panels. That panel room was gigantic and could have held at least a quarter of the crowd that wanted to see it.
Yep.
But anyway, while Otakon was right at that point, A lot of question was to where did the blame lie? Did Daryl pull a fast one by not making this 18 plus? And the answer is unequivocally, this is 100% Otakon's fault, but not for the reasons you might think. Because you see, Otakon did not read their panel applications, as far as I can tell, at all. They basically...
There is no evidence that they have read them, and there is a mountain of evidence that they did not read them, or at least did not read them very thoroughly whatsoever.
The panel descriptions for our panels were like like me telling Otakon what the panels were like.
Yes, they put our panel proposals in the pocket guide as opposed to our panel descriptions.
It was like, yeah, this panel, we ran it at PAX. It runs 55 minutes. It needs a projector. I think it's pretty slick and cool, and you should let us run it at Otakon, blah, 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 blah.
And that's what it said in the con book.
Also, they seem to have removed, like, all the commas.
Basically, the pocket guide that has the descriptions of all the events was a complete unedited disaster. And while I understand that a person bailed out of Otakon at the last second and they needed to rush to get it done, that is a very, very important thing, and you cannot afford, even if you have to rush to get it done, there is still sort of like a minimum level, of job that has to be done on it before you can send it off to the printer. And they just didn't do it, I mean, it's somewhat, they could have even like called me up and said, hey, do you want to edit this pocket guide? And I would have, if they needed it the next day, I would have stayed up overnight and made sure it was, I could have made it a lot better than it was. Let's just say that much.
Now, it wasn't just there. Just as another example of this sloppiness, which is leading up to why this happened, Kikoku Inoue, who is the voice of Belle Dandy, she's a super popular voice actress, and she's pretty famous, and it's really cool that she came to Otakon. She was a voice actress for Ogenki Clinic,
which is a hentai.
A horrifying hentai.
I'm not sure how horrifying it is, but it's Scott, a hentai and I wouldn't watch.
I have one of the manga of it over there.
You really do?
It was given to me by Wyatt. It was signed by Steve Bennett.
Oh, that Ogenki Clinic.
Yes.
I thought that was just an American thing that Steve Bennett did for him. I didn't realize it was an actual anime.
Ogenki Clinic is a horrifying hentai.
Oh, wow. Yeah, and it is horrifying.
It is true that Kikoku Inoue was a voice actress in it, and there's a whole bunch of debate about this, but they never released a version of it in America legitimately with her doing the acting.
They also, her agency or whatever doesn't let that information get out. Like, they don't list her as having been in it, and that's why it's hard to get Ogenki Clinic in Japan, apparently. And
presence of it in America, conventions that do anything with her, people are very respectful of this, and they don't print that in the con book.
And hardly anyone knows it.
Otakon,
to even ask a question about it.
I'd heard rumors, but I didn't really know the story until this happened. Otakon just printed this in the book, so someone at one of her panels was like, blah, 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 Ogenki Clinic.
And he wasn't, he didn't realize there was a controversy, like we didn't realize it. He just read it in the con book and asked about it.
And
she got mad upset, and the people who knew that this was a sensitive issue
apparently the whole crowd was like, oh my God, oh no.
Because apparently people in the crowd knew this was a sensitive issue. But this guy just read it in the con book, so that guy isn't at fault. Otakon was at fault for letting that be in the con book.
Now, here's the thing. I would never, ever fault someone for telling the truth. And I'm not an advocate of censorship. And I wouldn't necessarily, the fact that Otakon did it, if they did it knowingly, I would have taken a position that, yes, it's an asshole thing to do, but you know what? They have the right to do it.
But clearly, I think it's obvious that Otakon regrets that being in the con book.
Otakon screwed up, because Jim would never have let that happen if he had read this. And clearly, a staffer at some point along the way fucked up.
Yeah, I mean, if it was our convention, we would have intentionally printed it in there.
Or we would have made very specially, we would not have printed it there. We would not have fucked it up.
Yes, it's
one of the two. But
if it was intentional, it was okay. If it was accidental, then it's it's not okay. And it was accidental by Otakon. It was a failure in editing.
But these two things together. Now back to Daryl's Anime Craziest Deaths panel. Now, there is a whole controversy about the fact that I'll link to in our Things of the Day or in the post, the clip that got the panel shut down. And here's the real issue I would take is that if there had not been two kind of distant nipples in this video...
Gigantic, not anywhere near realistic nipples.
By Otakon's own admission at the con feedback session, this panel would have been fine because America has this crazy double standard where violence is great, but a nipple is verboten.
Yes, but we talk about...
Someone at the con feedback was like, so you're saying that if it'd been just as violent, but you didn't show a nipple, it would have been fine? And the staffer was like, yes, absolutely. And watch this video. It is a horrifying explosion of
The thing is, I want to bring
character.
up something. Carol Bartz, who's the newer CEO of Yahoo, someone questioned her at a press conference and said, Yahoo, why are you being all, doing business in China and censorship and all that, right? And we always think, Google, Yahoo, Microsoft, censorship in China, they're bad, right? The thing is, she said something that I sort of have a hard time arguing against, even though I still feel there's something wrong with this argument. And that is, she said, Yahoo wasn't created to fix China, right?
And that's the same thing for anyone who says that Otakon should just said blah and gone for it. It's not Otakon's responsibility to fix American puritanical attitudes.
Otakon's mission statement is not fix the United States' Puritan ways. Otakon's mission statement is, exist and spread anime and, love otaku generation, et cetera, et cetera. And it has, nothing in there about fixing America. So, since that's not part of what Otakon sets out to do, in all other aspects, they're just going to act within the laws and regulations of the convention center, the city of Baltimore, the state of Maryland, the United States, the UN, etc.
So, did Daryl Surratt just not check this as 18 plus when he should have? Well,
maybe.
He did not check it, but you realize Otakon has this form you fill out to submit a panel.
Mm-hmm.
And in the form, there's a section that says, is there anything important we need to know about your panel? And I put a whole bunch of stuff in there on all our panels, which apparently Otakon didn't read because...
Or at least they didn't...
They didn't read.
We didn't have any evidence whatsoever that they read it.
Because Daryl, in his submission, I'm going to paraphrase because I have what Daryl actually wrote here, but he said in that section... The content in this panel contains strong graphic violence and the possibility of nudity, but no graphic sex or hentai beyond what would be seen in an upper tier, like R-rated movie. That is the reason why I did not check it as 18 plus.
Yep. And apparently, Otakon did not publish, at least not anywhere that I saw. I didn't look for it, granted, but I didn't see anywhere a policy about what makes 18 plus and what doesn't.
And you know what? In the panel, they're really, as a panelist,
and
Otakon never really made it any, they never said when you have to check it, when you don't. And two, it is Otakon's responsibility to determine that, not the panelists.
Yep. And also, Daryl ran this exact panel at many other conventions in non-18 plus time slots with no issue whatsoever. So Otakon has a different standard from other conventions, which is fine. You can have a different standard. You just have to make it known.
But it's not obvious. And two, no one read this at all.
No, obviously, no one read it. Or at least whoever read it did not act on it or think about it or anything.
And they accepted the panel just fine, and they let him run it without the 18 plus, like in the afternoon.
Yep.
Otakon is just so at fault here, and I don't even know what to do about it. Let us take over panels? I don't know.
Yeah, well, I would read all the panel descriptions. That's at least at the very least I would read all the panel descriptions and the pocket guide wouldn't be messed up, and big panels, obviously crowded panels, would be in bigger rooms. And other than that, I would probably run everything else the same as it is now, and there you go.
So that was pretty much the biggest disaster of Otakon, because that was, as far as I can see, based on the count of people in line, that would have far and away been the most popular panel at the entire con.
Possibly. All right, so are there any other big things at Otakon we have to cover before we do the chronology?
Oh, big things. There was the Bleach panel thing, but we can talk about that later.
Yeah, we'll do that chronologically, because that was something we heard about afterwards and was not so, it wasn't that big a deal.
It was pretty cool. There's one last thing I do want to mention about gophers and gophering, because this came up at the feedback session and it came up again on the forums. I just want to mention it.
And we brought it up in a show, How to Fix Anime Cons.
Yeah, but one of the staffers at Otakon, when someone complained about how, being a panelist or being a gopher, it really isn't that fun at Otakon. And as, panelist, I can say that by and large, the gophers I ran into they could not answer any questions I had.
Yeah, every gopher that I ran into Otakon, and I ran into quite a few and tried to, get help from quite a few of them. They were all nice. They were all trying to be helpful. They were all well-meaning and hardworking, right? They were all great gophers. The thing is that they were obviously improperly trained. They didn't know their way around the convention center. They didn't know the schedule. They didn't know even where the information desk was, which had moved this year. That was the first thing when I walked in the con. The information desk was replaced by the Lost and Found, and the information desk had moved. So I asked a nearby gopher, where did the information desk move to? I don't know.
Now, the worst part is, and not to really disparage Otakon, but the staff were largely the same way. I rarely encountered a staffer who could answer any question I had.
Basically, it's not that the staff aren't hardworking or such is that they have this sort of attitude that I think is harmful to the convention. And they just need to fix it. That's pretty much the bottom line. The staff and gophers of Otakon have an attitude and a culture that is harmful. They are not they're often disrespectful to guests, not guests of the but members of the con, badge holding, attendees, as well as, gophers. Not saying this is not across the board. It's just a general attitude,
About the relevant quote, and this started a shitstorm in the forum. Quote, "Gophering is not supposed to be fun. You're put where you're put. If you don't like it, don't do it. It's as simple as that." And all I want to say, we don't want to dwell on this either. This is a whole separate show that we have
did
to
a show on it already. How to fix
Yes.
anime cons.
Yes, but we will highlight it again at some point because we're going to PAX and everything. But I bring it up because in the forum, that same staffer basically said, "Enforcers? What? Are you kidding?"
Yeah.
Like they clearly did not understand what needs to change in staffing.
Yes. I think that, I can sum it up by doing 2 impressions. You
And
ready?
I got emails from some Otakon staffers who were first-year staffers, and a few of them posted in the forum too, basically saying, like, you know what? We try, but we just, no one told us what to do, and a lot of times I wandered around with nothing to do.
Yep. Here, I'm going to do 2 impressions here, and I think these impressions will sum up everything we have to say and let us get a move on and not extend this episode any further, right?
All right.
This is my impression of an Otakon staffer managing a line to an event in which no cameras are allowed. You
Oh
ready?
my god. Oh my god. I know what you're going to do. I remember her.
Absolutely no cameras and no photography will be allowed. Basically yelling at the people in line as if they are children, right? Yelling at them like, "Hey, you punk kids, this is the rules." That's an Otakon staffer, right? There actually is an Otakon staffer. I don't even know their name, but they do exist, and I've run into them at my first Otakon in 02, and I ran into a similar person, if not the same person, at the Otakon 09. Now, here is a PAX enforcer in the same situation. "Oh, dude, no cameras. What's up? Oh, come on. All right, listen. All right, here. Give me your camera. I'll put it in Lost and Found, and then after you get out of here, you'll find it. All right, cool. All right, go, man."
Now-
right? Improvisation. Treating
here's
the
the thing.
attendees with respect. Being helpful.
Improvisation comes with...
Knowing solutions
Scott,
to things.
Improvisation comes with one thing, and that is authority. The fact that any enforcer from the lowest to the highest rank has equal authority to improvise on the spot and make things work.
Yep.
And
They're also,
I-
trained. They're also trained enough that they are trusted with that authority.
And here's the thing. If you don't believe our anecdotal evidence, here's a specific example. Daryl's panel, Craziest Anime Deaths, shut down kind of ham-fistedly. Otakon staffers could have fixed it by moving the panel somewhere, do it. They could have done something to make everyone happy and solve the situation if they had just had the authority to think on their feet and improvise. When we ran Beyond D&D at PAX, and a mob of people followed us out of the room trying to play this game with us after the panel, hundreds of people.
Yet, unexpectedly, for the first time, we went over to where the gaming tables were, and they were all full, which had not been true for the entire con.
So the PAX enforcers
We had all these people with no tables to set.
all these PAX enforcers saw our trouble, and they came over "Guys, you need some help?" And we're like, "Yeah, we got this mob. We got to run another panel on the fly." And they were like, let me check. And they get on the radios, and they're like, "Panel room whatever is empty. Go there. We'll put up a sign. We'll point everyone who's trying to find you guys over there." And then they sent us all these other enforcers to set up microphones for us and to run this panel room for us on the spot at 11 o'clock at night.
Yep, they just completely improvised and they grabbed tables from somewhere and they set up this panel room and made it happen on the spot. They saw there was a problem. They saw there was a crowd that was doing something that wasn't, quite right. They had nowhere to go. It was lost. They saw it. They descended upon it and they fixed it. And
Now, before you say, but PAX is a for-profit con, PAX enforcers are not paid. They're just as volunteer as Otakon gophers.
yes, the only difference is in their attitude, the way they are managed, the amount of training they have, the enthusiasm they have, the respect they have for each other, the respect they have for the attendees, and the respect the attendees have for them. And I think that...
I used to think that AnimeCon culture and AnimeCon demographics could not support something like that. I've changed my opinion. I think it's because I know Otakon staffers who are exactly like that. And I think you could get enough of those staffers if you just change the culture around anime conventions. But the culture of AnimeCon staffing is a whole separate issue, and we want to get to all the awesome stuff from Otakon.
Yep, and I think the Otakon's major difficulty is its inertia. It's been doing it for how many years? It's very hard to change it. whereas PAX started off on the right foot.
Yep. Also, PAX kind of started in a vacuum and kind of didn't have all the accoutrement and the baggage of old gaming cons and old anime cons.
Yeah, they just made it up as they went along. They didn't, they barely looked at other cons, so they didn't do anything according to the status quo. They did things according to the way that they thought it should be done. So anyway.
Yep.
Let's do the chronology of Otakon.
All right. Now, this is very...
Vamps concert.
Very pointedly, this episode is going to be long, but that's fine. You guys like this stuff.
Yeah.
But very pointedly, we did not get press passes this year, and we tried to wander around the con straight up as attendees.
Yep.
So,
panelists don't get a special badge. So we had the same badge as everyone else, only we were running some panels.
Yep. So consider this almost a blog post as opposed to like objective press coverage. We're going to talk about like us trying to get dinner in stupid Baltimore and everything.
Mm-hmm.
So we showed up Thursday like we always do at noon, and for the first time in 7 years, the Renaissance Hotel just fucked us. Every year, we have this ritual. We show up at noon. We get a room like right next to the elevator, like at noon at the Renaissance because I request early check-in. We like hang out. We go skip the line and get our badges because we're panelists, and then we go and like swim in the pool and have a super awesome party all night long Thursday. The Renaissance Hotel just screwed us. They didn't give us a room until like 3. The room smelled like chlorine.
They gave our friend a room immediately.
Yep, and we registered the room, like we got the room like months before they did. And the room smelled like chlorine, and the staff...
Because it was right next to the pool.
And the staff were kind of
rude. It was as far away from the elevator as possible.
And beyond that, the only reason we stayed in the Renaissance every year was because right near the Renaissance over in the power plant is where all the good restaurants are. But the one good restaurant, out of business.
Yep.
And basically, like, everything was fail, and I've given up. They've crossed me for the last time.
Yep, next year we're going to stay in the Hilton.
Yeah, they also gave us a 1 king-size bed, despite us having reserved the room for 2 beds and 4 people, like, the week after Otakon last year.
Yeah.
Yeah, fuck you, Renaissance.
Fail on the hotel. Also, the parking is still way too expensive.
Yeah. It was...
Next year, the Hilton, which is attached to the con, I think will actually save us a lot of time, because how many times do we have to, like, walk back, get the banner and stuff?
Of course,
a lot of those trips can be we can save a lot of time if we stay in that Hilton.
A lot of people had trouble, however, with the Hilton, but I'll get into that in the con feedback
I don't think
section.
we'll have trouble, though.
We won't, but 4 or 5 years ago, we would have.
That's true.
Yeah.
Anyway. So, the Vamps concert on Thursday. Of course, we skipped the pre-reg line, which was insanely long because we had Vamps concert tickets.
Yep.
That worked very well, that line skip. We got our badges. We went over to the Vamps concert. We took a cab with a cool cabbie. He was all nice.
And now, we took the cab because we weren't really sure where the place was, but the place is like a couple blocks from Otakon.
Yeah, it looked much farther away on the map than it actually was. Anyway.
But that's just Seattle syndrome.
Yeah, we got in line. We met all kinds of cool people at the concert, people we knew.
Particularly behind us, there was this really cute anime girl with her mom. And her mom was like totally Leiji Matsumoto, like super awesome. Like she was
awesome.
Like I talked to her the whole time in line about like she is like old school awesome.
We also walked past a weird like Satan church.
Oh yeah, I got some pictures of that.
And like some other weird stuff on the way.
We passed like that scary looking, like rusty, blood covered looking like can top, and then later we saw the hobo can it was associated with.
Yeah, anyway. So regardless, there was weird stuff in the line for the concert. The line was a bit long. Concert started a little bit late, but that was all right.
Yep.
We eventually got in the room, and we were greeted with an awesome concert.
That concert, a lot of people we know were like, I'm not interested in that concert, or I don't want to, blah, 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 blah.
You're lost.
You're all stupid.
You're
I'm going to say
fail.
right now, anyone who thinks they don't want to go to a concert because, I don't like that style of music, unless it's Phantomas, live music is always badass. And
99% of live music is badass regardless of genre or whether you know it already or don't know it already or anything. Even like a band that usually like people would berate, it can be pretty awesome live.
But here's the thing. Here's the awesome part. Hyde, the front man for this band, Vamps. One, they're a lot more like hardcore and hard rocky, a little bit of metal than they used to be, or when he used to be. And it was a great concert. And they did this interesting cover of Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds near the end. That was pretty cool.
That was pretty good.
But during the concert, he stops and he addresses the crowd and he's like, "Hello, Baltimore!"
And the thing is, whenever you go to these J-Rock concerts in the U.S., right, they typically don't speak a lot of English. Though Hyde's English is, it's all right. He's definitely learned a bunch
but he has this very specific
in the past 6 years, right?
accent. He's always like, "Hello, Baltimore!"
Yeah, but, he won't say a lot, right? But he'll say like a few things with a lot of power. He'll be like, "We're going to take care of you."
He reminds me a lot of that metal band we saw in Poughkeepsie. Do you like Christians?
Yeah.
I like them. in boiling oil.
So anyway, if anyone knows, back at the Larkin Ciel concert, 5 years ago or whatever, right? He did similar shtick, and one of the shticks was, "Did you eat crap?"
And that was the whole audience, he's like, blah, blah, blah. And the audience goes, woo, blah, 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 woo. And then he's like, "Do you eat crap?" And there's this slight pause as the audience goes, and then everyone cheers anyway because clearly he doesn't mean crap.
Yep.
And then
he's
he says,
talking about eating crab because, as Emily tells us, the thing to do in Japan is it's all about the local food, right?
Yep.
So, like, Emily went to see him in doing this concert in New York.
And he's like, "I eat pizza.
Slice as big as my head."
Which, that's New York pizza.
Yeah, so if you ever go to Japan, I think that it would probably be a very good idea to learn the local special food of wherever you're going, because then the people will like you and possibly be less xenophobic towards you.
Actually, France is pretty much the same way. If you're in some little French town and you just order...
Maybe I just take that as a general travel tip for the world. Learn the local foods.
Except in America.
And always eat the local specialty wherever you are.
Because then you might end up with scrapple.
You might end up with scrap. That's true. Yeah, you might end up with grits also. Anyway.
But he realized on the stage too, he's like, what I say wrong. Oh, well.
Yeah,
It was
so
too late.
anyway, for years and years and years, that has been an inside joke with us, sort of an outside joke. We'd always be like, "Did you eat crab?"
And as
Right?
far as I can tell, it has been a joke among just pretty much a lot of people who went to that concert. Like, it resonated. People remembered that very
Something about
pointedly.
that, "Did you eat crab?" just stuck. And I didn't think that he would remember. I'm like, how would he know that people remember that? How would he know? And then, I'm like, the whole concert, every time I'm like, I was actually really looking forward to the parts where he said stuff instead of singing, right? I was like, is he going to say something about the crab? What's he going to say? He comes out and he's like, "Hello, Baltimore."
And we're like, woo!
"Did you eat crab?"
But he says it, and then he kind of cocks his head. Like he's
like
giving us
he
this look.
knows.
He's like,
he knew. He's
ah.
so new. And everyone was just like, "Yeah, the crab."
Because
Woo!"
everyone in that crowd knew. Like
Everybody knew. Everybody knew the score. And then he said a few other things, and then he said, "Do you eat crab again?" Because he knew. It was, oh man.
It was a fantastic concert.
That's like if you went to like a Rick Astley concert and he came out and he's like, "Be like Rick Roll." But, of course he does do that. But, I'm just saying.
It's the same
It's
thing.
like if he knew before you thought he knew. Anyway.
But the concert was awesome.
Awesome concert.
Shout outs to everyone we met because we hung out with like a ton of cool
We
people.
hung out with so many people at this con. I don't even remember all of you. I remember some. I know your
Like, at
names.
the
I don't know
concert,
your names.
Cool girl and your mom who were hanging out behind us in line. Cool people in front of us. Punk kids behind us. That is also where I saw the Gothic Lolita with the tiny hat, and I decided that my goal in life is to see someone wearing 4 of those tiny stupid
4. I
hats.
thought we decided 3 hats.
I think you got to go all the way to 4. 3 like in a crown, like in a circle, and then 1 on top of one of the other ones.
Like a little pyramid.
Something like
Maybe
that.
10 in sort of like a bowling pyramid.
Like a stack of pancakes.
or a stack of cups. Anyway.
And like we met Erin, who we met at PAX as well.
Yeah, she came all the way from Western Canada.
She took the bus from Western Canada and stayed in the hostel by Otakon.
That's dedication.
She's pretty cool too. So
yeah, totally awesome.
But
and we
anyone-
also went to the 7-Eleven after the concert, and they had individual servings of Simply Lemonade.
oh my god. And then, in the 7-Eleven, all these people are like, "Oh my god, Raymond Scott?"
Yeah,
Woo.
in the 7-Eleven, everyone knew us. So, yeah, we should have hung out at the 7-Eleven the whole time to meet the listeners. Anyway, so Saturday morning at Otakon. Friday morning. I meant Friday, but I said Saturday.
So, trouble. Friday morning. Now, Otakon has never gotten those goddamn doors open at the right time. But this year...
It's 8 o'clock. The con's supposed to be open. Doors are shut.
This year, they got them open relatively quicker than other years. But we had a problem. We had a panel pretty early on Friday.
At 10, which is
And-
the second panel.
There's a line, like none of the doors are open, and there's this line, like this crazy line to get into the con. So we go up to the front, the Pratt Street entrance because no one will let us in any other door. And
Well, I mean, it's understandable. They can't open the Middle Street doors. What's that street? I forget. The Middle Street doors because, the Reg line is passing by there. So they can't open
Yes.
those until the Reg line is passed. Understandable.
but
Perfectly
the Skywalk,
okay.
they never open the Skywalk.
They never opened the Skywalk. But actually, they did open the Skywalk this year But the thing is, they don't open enough doors on the regular entrance. They open one door, and the people trickle in.
Also, too little, too late. And the crux of this was
Panels started at 9, and the doors opened like at 9:15.
And there was no one in the convention center except the people who were getting their pre-reg badges that morning. So basically, all the 9 o'clock panels were empty.
Yeah, that was the thing. If you got your pre-reg badge, right, because the reg doors opened on time, so if you pre-registered or registered and got your badge immediately, like you were first in line Friday, you just stayed in the con. So those people got in before people who got their badges Thursday and waited for these other freaking doors to open. They need to open all of those doors, obviously not the ones that you can't open, but all of the openable doors, open all of them immediately at the opening minute on Friday.
Or don't schedule panels when no one can possibly be in the center.
Also a good idea.
But more importantly, we had a panel. We couldn't get in. We find some staff. We're like, look, we got a panel. We got to get in. And finally, the guy's like, all right, fine. And he let us in. And we go to panel ops, and we set everything up. We barely make it to our panel. But other panelists weren't so lucky. And one panelist very specifically, like they went in, and they're like, look, we got to get in. We got a panel at 9. And the staffer said to them, you should have gotten in line earlier like everyone else. Whoa
is right.
Now, later, Otakon's official response was, and I quote, whoever said that was misinformed.
Yes, and I think that's,
But
that's
again,
a general...
this is the problem of too many staffers are misinformed, and too many staffers take this adversarial...
They're misinformed or malinformed or uninformed.
And they take this kind of adversarial, this bad guy position when they could have worked something out. But this also is the problem that Otakon is trying to prevent the other problem of people sign up to do panels just to get the perks and then just don't show up for their panels.
I think Otakon sort of has this assumption that anyone who's gophering or doing a panel or whatever is just out for a free badge.
Well, here's the thing.
And only the staff and is the people who are really working hard
Otakon tried
for the good of the con.
Otakon tried to fix this problem by making it to where you basically get jack for shit if you're a panelist. And they still had tons and tons of panelists just not show up, just not do their panels.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, someone's doing a panel and showing up. That's someone who cares about the convention. They're just like the staff. We're not trying to scam a free badge, right? I mean, I'd probably pay. The cost isn't the problem, right? I mean, it's I want to help the con just as much as the staff people.
Here,
I'm helping in a different way.
I don't want to dwell on that any further other than to say that a bunch of Otakon staff have come up to us, several of them independently of one another, and a couple as a group, and have basically said that they're going to sponsor us to take control of one panel room or one video room and run stuff in it on our own.
Yeah, we're working on something for next year that could be awesome. We'll possibly become staff or who knows what. But yeah, we're gonna do our best to do some fixings within our power.
Because our policy, as always, is if we're told to put up or shut up, we're always willing to put up.
And then if you deny our put up, then we can trash you.
That's why we dropped Katsucon. We weren't willing to put up.
Yeah.
So we shut up.
That's right. We shut up. Okay. So
we con our way in, and we did, the panel staffer, to his credit, had the PAX attitude, because we were like, can we leave this banner in here overnight? And he's like, no, you can't. The policy is no. And we were like, so is it no, we can't, or is it you won't stop us, but if it disappears, it's our fault? And he was like, I'm not going to stop you. So we hit it in the corner, and it was fine.
Yep. See, that's a PAX attitude that guy had. That was the panel staff guy, the guy who was in panel ops.
Yep,
He's pretty much like, we are not responsible for lost or misplaced items. And we're like, thank you. We'll leave this right here.
Good day. Good day to you, sir.
See, that is the correct attitude to have. Now,
and he was also the one improvising. Can you guys do more panels? And we're like, we'll try.
Yeah, we didn't, though.
No, we didn't.
So we went to our first panel, Know Your Creators, which I have to admit was not the greatest panel. The major problem with it was that we planned to retool it. We failed to retool it. And B, we did not do enough preparation. We planned to meet with Daryl Surratt, who was also on the panel, on Thursday, and we failed to meet him on Thursday.
Also, the fact that almost every video he sent me had boobs in it.
Yeah, so it was very difficult, and also we had a technology fail, which was Rim's fault.
Now, the thing is, while I had some problems with that, with the videos, an industry panel had a similar problem with
in the
their
same
audio.
room. Yes, I was at the Bana Entertainment. I was at a portion of the Bana Entertainment panel in that same room, and they had similar difficulties. So it was not entirely our fault. However,
but I will say this:
it was partially Rim's fault.
I think Daryl Surratt was trying to sabotage our panel.
He
with the
was
boob
not
panel.
trying to sabotage our
with
panel.
the boob, because I noticed that the boob screwed him later, and he was trying to bring us down with him into hell.
Okay, anyway.
Anime hell.
But yeah, that wasn't our best panel. It didn't have enough preparation.
The thing is,
but considering that it was at 10 a.m., right, not a lot of people showed up, but considering that it was at 10 a.m. and not a lot of people were still waiting in line, it was a lot of people considering those factors. It just wasn't a lot of people in total. It was in the biggest panel room, the same panel room they use for closing ceremonies and such, and it had people. It was,
And also, despite me thinking that was a pretty weak panel on our part, we got a lot of feedback. And
we got some negative feedbacks, though, which was pretty accurate. One person was like, yeah, the people running the panel, were sort of talking to each other about, their issues with and it was like, yeah, that's exactly true. It's because you didn't prepare.
Yep.
And in the future, we will prepare this panel much, much more. And the panels, it's almost run its course anyway. So,
yep.
That was that panel. All right. So let us fast forward a little bit here.
From that point on, I wandered around.
Did a lot of wandering because there wasn't a lot I wanted to see right away, at least. I went to the Artist Alley, when it opened. And Artist Alley this year, very nice Artist Alley. Just as big and awesome as last year.
The art show was pretty solid, too, I gotta say.
Yep, art show was pretty solid. I mean, there wasn't anything in the art show that blew me away. I did notice there was the giant Big O statue, though.
That was something epic to behold. And if I had not just, purchased a house, I kind of considered it, because that would have been a cool thing to own, and it wasn't that expensive.
Yeah, the thing was, it was like, you had to... basically pay for shipping of the thing, which is like $1,000. And I'm wondering, how did they ship it to Otakon? And did anyone buy it? It's like, whoa, really? Sort of crazy.
Of course, it's partly you ship it to Otakon just to show it off. Like, look what I wrought.
Yep.
Look, ye mighty, ye not guilty.
There were also a lot of
despair.
there were also more models in the modeling contest in the art show, which I thought was pretty interesting.
Well,
and
modeling is coming back.
I think modeling is coming back, and Princess Tutu is making a resurgence.
I think we are primarily responsible for Princess Tutu's comeback.
I don't think we're responsible for the modeling comeback.
We're not, but Princess Tutu definitely.
I don't even think it's a comeback. It's just a come. It's a come for Princess Tutu and a come for modeling. Anyway, our friend.
Well, speaking of that, every year we always go to the 18+ section of the art show because it is invariably hilarious, and it did not disappoint.
Yep, there was some funny stuff in there. Our friend Eric Marisak was doing his awesome chalk arts.
Yep.
He did, pretty much he did the Otakon con book cover.
And the thing
very
is,
good, nice crabs.
Yeah, his stuff is always impressive, and he's at every con.
Yeah,
so.
if you go to a nerdy con, be it, I think he's going to be at PAX, he's at New York Anime Festival, New York Comic Con, he's at all sorts of cons. Eric Marisak is the guy who's always doing the chalk art on the big piece of paper. Definitely stop and say hi to him.
He's really cool.
He's really cool. He likes to take a break, from drawing his chalk. So if you go and talk to him, he'll stand up and talk to you just so he can give his arm a rest. He's got a lot of cool stuff to say. I learned that he gets the chalk in bulk really cheap from this company that doesn't have a website. So, it's that's something to keep in mind.
I have this vision of buying just tons and tons and tons of it, and just giving it to everyone in line at Otakon.
That's what I was about to say. Remember at PAX when we waited in line, they gave everyone pipe cleaners. If I, at Otakon,
yeah, another example of PAX being awesome. Good God, there was this crazy line that was going to be 2 hours long. So PAX enforcers just went and got all this pipe cleaner and just passed it out in bulk and said, "Do what thou wilt."
And everyone made awesome crafts in line. At Otakon, people were taking, people in line, some stupid morons in line. These were attendees, by the way. Were using permanent marker to draw on, basically vandalize the city while they were in line.
Jackasses, because it was Otakon, it was the BCC. Otakon probably had to cover the cleaning of that.
Yep. Or who knows? Well, I don't know. It could have just been, the city, because it's not. Remember, and any issue regarding the line or outside the con, Otakon does communicate with the city, but I think it does. It is the city's responsibility.
Yes, but if it's on the convention center, there might be agreements to the side.
I don't know. I have no idea how that works.
Regardless,
it's completely up in the air.
Jackasses. But if we just bought chalk in bulk, the kids wouldn't use the Sharpie to draw the penis when they can use the perfectly easily wash off chalk to draw the penis.
Yep, and that also would have occupied people in line, who were bored and sitting there for hours and hours. They should have just handed out chalk to the whole line, and I bet there are plenty of artists out in line, Artist Alley type people who could have drawn some really good stuff out on this, and it would have also, as people drove by after the line cleared, they would have seen all this awesome anime arts all over, and the only thing that you probably would have had to do was get some sort of permit from the city, and Otakon already probably has to get a bunch of permits from the city. How much work is one more permit, really?
Plus, think about it, Otakon, that art festival is going on at the same time. I think Baltimore would be all about that.
Yeah, and it would have made, the convention center look totally Otakon styling during Otakon. It would have been awesome. It's that kind of creative thinking that, people need to work on. Anyway.
They're lucky, because if I didn't know about this, my other plan was to buy 10,000 kazoos in bulk. If you think buttscotcha was annoying, imagine 10,000 kazoos.
Yep. All right. So the thing is, you know, I don't. Do you want to talk about the butt scratcher or just skip it?
We should mention it. So
apparently, I didn't hear anyone at the con actually say this.
never
but
once.
In post-con, a lot of people complained that people were saying butt scratcher.
Butt
And
scratcher.
I didn't know what the deal was with butt scratcher. I thought it was some sort of 4chan thing, sort of like Sea King, fuck yeah, right? But later on, after we got home, we did a YouTube search for butt scratcher, and we found out what it was. And actually, I kind of think it's funny.
Well, it was funny because one, it's an interesting exercise in memes, and I don't want to get into that, but we've talked about that a lot. And it is like this beautiful example of the fitness of a meme, and the susceptibility of people to different kinds of memes. But someone posted in the Otakon forum because someone was like, "Where did that start? Oh my god!" And this guy was like, "Sorry guys, I think it was me, and I'm not kidding." Basically, there were all those people, like bums and people with permits, walking up and down the pre-reg line, and the line Friday morning, they're like, "Ice cold water, I get you ice cold water," here trying to sell, water. And one guy in line, after every time they walked by, was like, "Butt scratcha, get your butt scratcha, butt scratcha," to make fun of those guys. And apparently, it just started spreading up and down the line, and it echoed for the entire convention.
Even though I never heard it once. So that tells you how big this con is. That there was enough. It was enough of a problem that multiple people complained about it, but it wasn't big enough that I found out about it.
The thing is, for anyone to complain about that, there's nothing you can do about me. The people who go to anime cons are more susceptible to memes than average people.
You already took away the signs, which is a good move. You can't take away yelling stuff.
You can't take away the butt scratcher.
Right. So, also the video game room at Otakon was actually. It was actually quite good. I mean, it was pretty much the same as it's been in years past.
They had these pump machines in the corner. That was rocking.
People were actually saying the pump machines are really good. They didn't have a DDR, but not machines of DDR. Anyway, I actually played, the sort of quirky Japanese shmups. I played this one...
Twinkle Star whatever?
Well, we played the Twinkle Star whatever for I guess it was the PS2 version.
That game is so great.
It's the Versus Witches Monster Shoot 'em Up, space shooter shmup, right? We also played... I played this game that was basically it was a Sega Saturn game that was basically Gradius, but you had all these different characters you could choose from. You could choose the Gradius ship, but you could also choose like stick figure riding a paper airplane or flying pig or all these other, like the dragon, guy, sitting on a rocket, all this sort of stuff. And it was a pretty good Gradius game, and Infinite Continues. It was fun. I also played this Xbox 360 game. That was sort of a versus shmup. It's sort of like a versus bullet hell where you charge up and you turn into a boss and everything. And it was a pretty good game. And, so there was some interesting stuff going on in the Otakon video game room. And, actually the time I went there was like right away on Saturday or Sunday. No, right away on Saturday I went in there, I think. Just like immediately as soon as the con opened. And, so it wasn't too crowded when I was in there. I didn't have to wait in line and, I had a good old time. But apparently, when it was crowded, there was, of course, issues, but I was not party to them as I was there very early on Saturday.
Yep.
So, yes, good time in the video game room at Otakon. Let's talk about the dealer's room while we're at it, right? Dealer's room at Otakon. There was a lot less industry presence because the industry is down in the crapper, right? There was like a Media Blasters booth and a Funimation, and even those industry booths were much smaller.
Yep.
However, in years past, Otakon is, the way the dealer's room has worked is they would still have this big industry space, right? There would just be less and smaller industry booths, resulting in one area of the dealer's room being sort of airy and wide open, and the rest of the dealer's room being, booths. The thing is, this year, they crammed the whole thing with booths. There was equal tightness. Now, it wasn't tight. All the aisles were wide and comfortable. You were never cramped unless you wanted to get up close to a booth that was popular.
There were a ton of smaller vendors with a lot of really interesting stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't like some great dealer's room. There weren't amazing deals. There weren't like...
In fact, I gotta say, sadly enough, the deep discount DVD, like 25% off sale, was also going on during Otakon.
Yeah.
But here's what I noticed. No dealer had a deal that even came close to just the standard Amazon price on freaking any DVDs.
Yep. And the ones that did have deals, like the always awesome Sci-Fi Continuum,
it was all
I've
crap.
already cleaned out Sci-Fi Continuum in all the 20 conventions I've seen them at. So they didn't have anything left for me to clean them out of. So anyway, if you're looking for treasures or if you're looking for deals, the Otakon dealer's room didn't have it. But what it did have was quantity, and what it did have actually was model kits. There was just there's some resurgence. I noticed it at Anime Boston. I noticed it at Otakon 09.
Well, at Anime Boston, Scott was like, I think there's a resurgence. There's more of this stuff around.
I saw more people, just anecdotally, walking out of the dealer room with Gundam model kits.
But then we get to Otakon, and there's like this one
There's
dealer
this
booth.
that's just model kits, and it is packed the whole con. It was a poorly laid out booth. It was hard to walk around.
It was
in.
like this one-way maze.
Right, but they had model kits. The booth was constantly crowded. There was always someone at the cash register for as long as the dealer's room was open. They had good stuff, and I saw lots of model kits being sold, and I saw lots more of them in the dealer's room in general. So model kits are making a comeback at the dealer rooms in the cons, and that is a good thing, I say. And that's really all there is to say about the Otakon dealer's room.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a dealer's room. They sell stuff.
Now, in terms of panels, obviously I'm not going to talk about every panel I went to, but I saw some pretty good panels. I didn't see any bad panels, but I'll point out way in the end in the con feedback session, numerous people complained, not, they're bad panels, but that there are a few panels that happen every year by the same people every year that are terrible every year.
Yep.
But I skipped all those. But one thing Otakon did that was great, and I'm glad they did this, and they need to never stop doing this. They made a 15-minute break between every single panel. Panels did not abut against each other.
Yep. That was very good.
So as a result, unlike every other Otakon ever, when we had a panel, we would be in the room, we'd be set up, the time would start, and our panel would start immediately. And it was great. Brilliant, Otakon. I'm glad you did that. It made panels a million times better.
Yep. Another thing they did is they made it very clear when there would be a room clear and when there would not. If there was no scheduled room clear, the room would not clear. And if there was a scheduled room clear, the room would clear. And the only times they really scheduled room clears were like before the Vamps panel, a very crowded panel, before 18 plus starts in the room, obvious reasons. And if there was some sort of reason that they had to do a room clear, like I heard that there was a technical difficulty in one of the rooms where they had to do some rewiring. And for liability reasons, they had to do a room clear because they couldn't rewire it while there were people in there, just in case something happened, insurance, et cetera, et cetera. And that is perfectly understandable.
So, again, great. I mean, Otakon basically...
That's exactly what they should have done.
Other than, because we might not mention everything in the show.
That's exactly what they did do, what they should have done. Yes.
Other than the big bad things we talked about at the beginning of the show, every part of Otakon was just great.
Yep.
Like, pretty much without question.
See, that's the thing, is usually, like, if it was your first con, right, you're just gonna be like, oh man, this is awesome. Oh man, this is awesome. Oh man, this is right. The thing is, we sort of take all those for granted because we've been going for so long, and they tend not to stick out to us, and we don't make a big deal out of them. So we tend to focus on the negative. And the thing is, anything that wasn't negative was totally awesome. And in
fact, this was probably my most fun Otakon in years.
Yeah, I know. It's like in recent years, going to cons, I've sort of like been disenchanted with actually doing events at cons. It's only been running the events that entertains me. Going to the events, I've sort of been disenchanted and I'm not too excited about. But this year, I actually went to some panels and went to stuff, and I enjoyed going to stuff, and it was awesome again. So, that was cool, and it made this Otakon pretty great.
The other thing is that we actually, and this is totally a non-Otakon aside, but it's hard to eat anywhere in Baltimore because one, like everything's going out of business because Baltimore's not doing so well.
Nope.
And two, the power plant are full of jerks. We'll get to that. And the restaurant we wanted to go to was closed anyway. And three, everything closes early. And four, there's Otakon, so everything that isn't closed or expensive is crazy crowded. You can't.
And
get
even
in.
if it's not crazy crowded, it takes forever to eat. So like every time we wanted to eat, it always took way longer than it had in the past. And I'm actually considering next year, like for lunches at least, just buying the food from the overpriced con vendors, because even though it might be overpriced and not so good, it'll fill me up and it'll be done quickly, and I can have a lot more con time, and that is worth that slightly exaggerated price.
But the secret is to go to expensive places. So Friday night, we got the front row crew together, and we just went to the Capitol Grill, which is this great chain of
restaurants. It still takes a long time, but it takes as long as the Capitol Grill takes. It didn't take extra long,
Yep, there was no one in there but us, and we had a very expensive, awesome, liquor-filled steak dinner, and it was great.
Of course, as a result, we were in a rush to get to events that happened around meals, and I think next year I'm just going to eat lunch in the con, but I'll still take the time for the dinners.
I think the fancy dinner Friday night at Otakon is now a tradition.
Yes, of course. I'm not saying anything about the dinner. The dinner will stay.
Yeah.
But the lunch, I think I'm going to eat lunch at the con next year just to have more time and not be rushing to get to events after a meal. I didn't get to go see Ava 1.0, but actually I found out...
I'm glad we didn't, because the projector was screwy, and apparently the concert next door was super loud.
I also heard it was the dub, which I didn't have any interest in seeing if I would have known that.
Yeah.
So, but the thing was, I did want to get to the event at the time before I knew these things post hoc. So, I wasn't able to because I had to eat. Anyway.
Yep, but I don't know what else really happened on Friday, and every part of the con was great.
Yep. Let me try to think of some of the panels I went to. I don't remember when these panels were. I went to...
The ones I really think about are the ones I went to on Sunday. The Murayama, the Shote, the Ishiguro. Yeah, Shot.
Yeah.
I always said Shote until I was corrected by Shot.
Yep. I went to this best kung fu fight panel.
Oh my God, that was a great panel.
Yeah, it was. Some people were complaining about it, but you know what? I saw some videos of some awesome fight scenes from movies, and there were ones I hadn't seen before, and I learned some things I didn't know. And regardless of,
I went to that panel. I went to that panel with Daryl Surratt. So we were sitting there, and
regardless of any other flaws in the panel, I took positives away from it, and I liked it.
Well, I had never seen that, N weapons of the Y, and that was like the best fight ever.
That was pretty great. Yeah.
Oh my God! I can't
also,
believe
that cop knife fight, that was pretty good too.
Yeah, a little too realistic when it ends.
Yeah,
that was a little,
But that's what made it cool. Is it was a realistic knife fight.
Yeah.
You want to talk about any of the concerts at the con? I didn't go to any of them. I didn't even attempt to go to any of them.
We just didn't have time. But from what I gather, the concerts were all pretty badass.
Yeah, there were some complaints I heard.
Those can all be alleviated. Most of the complaints were that people said, A, the concerts were too loud. The answer, if you ever go to a concert that's not like symphonic music without musicians' earplugs, you're dumb.
Yep.
That's it. You're wrong.
Well, there was one thing, though, is that you go to Anime Boston in the big panel rooms, they have speakers at the front and speakers in the middle, and that allows them to keep the volume down and allows people to hear the panelists regardless of where they sit.
Why does Otakon fail at that every year?
Otakon only has speakers in the front of the room, and they turn them up loud so the people in the back can hear. And the result is that if you're sitting up front, it's too loud, and if you're sitting in the back, it's too quiet.
Yeah, like our panels...
Pay for an extra set of speakers in every room.
Our panels
necessary.
in the Hilton on Saturday... where it was very difficult for us because there was this crazy echo because of the really crappy audio setup. And Otakon has a crappy audio setup in all the panel rooms every year, and they always have. And you know what? It's a solved problem. Anime Boston does it just fine. Do it that way. And if the union says otherwise, I don't know.
I think my guess is that the only thing they would have to do is pay DSL more money for 2 extra speakers.
You have to.
In each of the 2, there's only 2 large panel rooms, right? So 4 speakers would solve this problem.
Trivially.
And I guess in some of the larger video rooms, I don't know what the speakers are like in there, but in panel 4 and panel 6, just put an extra pair of speakers in the middle of the room and turn the volume down.
The other complaint was that when the one idol gave her announcement, like, this is my last song, half the audience ran out of the room to get in line for like autographs and crap.
Well, I think it might have been for autographs. I think it was also a swag line, and it was very, disrespectful.
The only thing I can say about that is there's nothing Otakon can do about the fact that the majority of fans at anime cons are super disrespectful of Japanese guests in general.
Yeah, they're super disrespectful of just anything in general. It's like so weird. These people come to this con, and I guess if autographs are your thing, that's understandable. But people come and wait hours and hours in line for an autograph or a free swag, and they put that as a higher priority than like all this other stuff. And I just don't understand it.
Yeah, it's not even that they're trying to be disrespectful. It's just that they care about free like garbage.
Yeah, they care about someone signing a piece of paper or getting a free piece of crap that they're just going to throw away or put in a drawer and never look at again.
The thing is,
more than they care about, sitting and enjoying someone's wonderful music or, talking with someone or learning things at a panel.
The autograph I can understand because you get that couple of moments to like say something. Like if you are the biggest fan of like Trigun in the world.
Yeah, but are you really the biggest fan of this person more than anyone else in the world?
There are people who are.
There are, but hundreds and hundreds.
Yes,
that's so weird.
It is though. I've seen.
I don't get it.
I've seen evidence of it, but the people who complain that like I was the 100,000th person in line and they didn't sign my autograph, what the shit? Those people are just wrong.
Yeah. All right. What else can I remember from this con? Oh, of course, violent movies.
Oh my God! So
as is the tradition at Otakon, late at night in the live, they have a lot of video showing rooms and. There's some that show anime. One of them shows classics. They always show Otaku no video right away at the beginning of the con. The rooms never quite fill up all the way, but they always have a surprising number of people in them watching anime. And I
didn't get to see all the violent movies I wanted, but this was the best year for violent movies since Ichi the Killer.
I don't know if since each of the guys. I think since Ebola syndrome.
Yeah. But
Anyway.
that's a different kind of best.
But yeah, it was better than last year and the year before. So anyway, we go in, and on Friday, I watched Machine Girl Light, which was just a hilarious spoof on Machine Girl.
It was kind of perverted.
It was a lot more funny if you had seen Machine Girl, and it had
Yeah.
lots of innuendos, but it was funny. It wasn't perverted.
The crowd was enjoying it.
Then they showed Chanbara Beauty, which I found out later
All
was
right.
based on a video game, and it was not so good at all. It was just a bad
Crap.
sort of. It was just a bleh meh zombie movie based on a video game.
Now,
The one thing that was good in it that I will say is that the guy who plays the sidekick was Kuma from the live action Gokusen drama. So I'm a big
like
fan
that
of that guy. He's cool. I like him.
But while you suffered through this stupid movie, I wandered off drunk.
Good job.
But the thing is, I ended up in the rave. Well, basically, I ended up with some of the crew. And then our friend Kat Lowe wandered by with her friends to go to the rave. So I just followed them.
The Otakon rave.
This
The Otakon rave is
Otakon fixed
typically
it.
three
Otakon
things.
fixed it. Otakon fixed it. Oh
It's
my
usually
God.
doom, 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 doom with smelly fanboys that are real crowded. You know, hardly anyone's dancing except for a few people who think they can break dance. Glow sticks swinging around, hitting everyone in the face. And that's the Otakon rave.
So, the rave. One, as I'm walking up, I hear music and I don't believe my ears. It's the Ava theme remixed.
Oh, shit.
So as I get closer, I look in the room. I don't see any circles. There are glow sticks, but there's always been glow sticks. But there are people dancing and having a good time to techno-y anime music.
Was it smelly?
No.
Wow, how could it not be
So,
smelly?
I go into the side room and I see what they did. They moved the lame-ass rave music into that little side room. And in the main room, it was just like anime remixes and upbeat music. And they've kind of, at least Friday night, they dropped that minimalist 4-beat like trance crap. And it was upbeat, edging on happy hardcore music. It was awesome. I danced until my frail 27-year-old old man body failed me an hour and a half later. And then I went to bed.
All right. So, rave good.
Rave good.
Good on fixing the rave, Otakon.
It is the
Keep
first-
the anime music.
Yes, seriously. And also, there were staff.
Whatever DJ that was, double plus.
I saw two different Otakon staff members break up two different circles. Otakon knows the score now.
Good. Very good. Okay, so on Saturday, the violent movies I saw.
Oh my God! Saturday was the best ever. We
I
missed,
didn't get to see video clip. I saw the very end of video clip because we were at dinner.
I was looking forward to video clip.
Yeah, but from what I could tell from the ending, I couldn't really tell if it was good or bad.
I don't think it was good.
Anyway, I saw Death Bell. And
Death Bell.
It's called Death Bell because it was about a school, a crazy killer in a school, and you would kill people whenever the bell rang. So it was the Death Bell, right? And actually, I was expecting a violent movie, and there were violent deaths, in a Hannibal Lecter kind of way.
It was very
actually-
reminiscent of Saw.
Yeah, but actually, it was just sort of a good movie.
Well, now
it
here's the
wasn't.
thing.
It wasn't a great movie. It was
Nah.
just sort of good.
Here's the thing, but sort of good in one way, but it was a little contrived.
A little
And
bit.
It was. I would characterize it as
The ending was supposed to be a twist, but I saw it coming
I
a
would
mile
characterize
away.
it as uncomfortably violent with a pointless twist and a confusing plot that wasn't that
The
interesting.
plot wasn't confusing. It was just sort
No,
of obvious,
the plot
I
was
think.
confusing because the editing was just terrible and it jumped around all the time. You couldn't tell who was who, and it just like
I didn't have a problem with that.
well, no, near the end, like it would cut around to these unrelated scenes, but the cutting didn't add anything to the movie. It was just like it drawed out the.
It could have been a little bit compressed. It was a little bit stretched out there.
It was
but
pretty weak. It wasn't worth seeing.
really, no, I think
Nah.
I wouldn't go and say rent this or download it or spend your time to see it. But it caught my attention and I was relatively into it
I
for
was
the
bored
duration.
and like sitting on Twitter the whole time. It was not that good.
I liked Death Bell.
Whatever.
I would give it a 3.5 out of 5.
I'd give it like a 2.5 out of 5.
After Death Bell,
See, there's the thing. Death Bell was only worthwhile because it was post-seeded by Black Magic. That was
Black Magic 2.
that movie. It was basically a
It was a-
procedural voodoo.
It was a perfect movie for late night Otakon.
I will sum the
real
movie up.
doctors versus witch doctors.
I will sum the movie up with the quote of the movie. I'm actually 80, but I look 30 because I drink breast milk. And then you get a uncomfortably long scene where you learn how exactly a voodoo witch doctor gets breast milk and what he does to get it and how he uses
The
it.
best scene in the movie was the voodoo witch doctor had these zombies, and the way the zombies worked is they were basically just corpses, but he would hammer nails into their heads, and when he did that, they would turn young and alive, but they would still be zombies under his control. Right, but they would turn
He has
into
this racket. He keeps selling the same decrepit old zombie to like stars to have sex
right,
with.
but it looks like a young, hot, beautiful woman because it has the nail in her head.
Well,
when
nail
some
falls
guy
out.
ends up doing this young, beautiful zombie chick, right?
Wanna do
And when he's
her.
doing her, the nail comes out of her head, and while he's doing her, she turns into an old zombie corpse, and that is the best scene in the movie.
That was, I don't know. I think when he gives that woman the shave.
Yeah, that is what I expect to see at late night Otakon live action movies.
It is the
Horrible,
difference-
fucked up shit like that.
It is the difference between uncomfortably violent and hilariously violent
Mm-hmm.
or grotesque.
All right, so let's talk about our panels on
All right.
Saturday.
So on Saturday, we did Anime You Should See, the panel we like always do at conventions.
And it turned out the same way it usually turns out. A bunch of people show up, a bunch of people enjoy it. The one thing I want to say is that there were people there who had been to that panel before, and apparently they have confirmed that our spread of Princess Tutu is working.
Do you know how
So
many
we
people,
spread it some more.
like a surprising number of people, not to toot our own horn, came up to us before, during, or after that panel and said, dude, I came to this panel again. You guys are totally right. I'll watch everything you... Princess Tutu? Oh my god, it's the best thing ever.
There's people who cosplayed as Princess Tutu, and they came up and told us they were cosplaying as Princess Tutu because we told them to watch it at a previous Anime You Should See panel.
Yes, there are pictures of us. I gotta get
There
these
are pictures
online.
of us on Flickr with them cosplaying as Princess Tutu, and they came to our panel, and it was awesome.
Yep, and the best thing, we got the picture afterwards. So, they're like, will you pose for a picture? And we're like, yes, you guys are awesome.
So
and
our
cute.
panel totally worked. Now, then there was a break, and we sort of just hung out in panel 4 during the panel 6, which is in the Hilton, which was great. It was nice and quiet over there. It was like this great retreat from the con, and had these big panel rooms. And we sort of retreated over there until it was time for our other panel, Beyond D&D. Now, we didn't really want to run Beyond D&D because it wasn't anime related, didn't really fit into Otakon.
I originally pitched it as Beyond Besim, but Otakon agreed that, no one's gonna know what that is.
Right. So we ran Beyond D&D at their request, even though we were slightly reluctant, but we ran it, and it was a great running of it. We ran it very, very well. We learned, some of the slight flaw. It was a great panel to begin with, and we made it even better. The place was packed, and I think we fixed the number one problem with the panel, which is that after the panel, people would always come up to us and say, "Don't trash. Why are you trashing D&D?" And people just loved the panel this time. They didn't come up to us and ask why we were trashing D&D. They realized we weren't trashing D&D and that we liked D&D. And it was just so great, and the panel room was full. And even though it was Otakon, and I felt bad that we were doing D&D at Otakon, it was great and awesome.
Now, I was honestly floored by how many people came to that panel.
I did not expect the room to be full. It was panel 6, the biggest panel room in the Hilton, effectively completely full.
It was between 8 and 12. Like, it was so many people. And people were standing in the back. A bunch of Otakon staffers came in, partly because I told all of them, if you want to see an example of one of our real panels, go here. So a bunch of Otakon staff kind of came in and watched from the back about halfway through.
It was great.
And the only trouble was, unlike the rest of the convention center, where like you can kind of slip into those back like there were ways to escape from crowds. The crowd that followed us out of that panel room was unmanageable, and we basically, to anyone who wanted to talk to us, and you eventually lost us, the secret is we will leave a room like that if there's no back way and walk until the crowd is manageable, and then we stop.
Yep.
So if people don't just wander off, we'll keep walking.
But if not enough people wander off, we'll keep walking until we get to our hotel room.
But that was an epic panel. That was amazing.
We also went to a Fred Shot Q&A slightly before we had to do our panels. And I didn't get to it until it was close to over, which was sad. And a lot of the answers to questions he was asked were things I'd read online already and already knew. But it was quite excellent, and it was very disappointing in that it was in the smallest panel room that was in the Hilton.
Yes, Fred Shot
and
has
the room wasn't even half full.
All right, I'll put it this way.
What the
Fred
fuck?
Shot,
What the fuck?
Murayama, Ishiguro, all these people, we had 10 times that many people in our panel.
which is fucked up.
Yeah.
Totally fucked up. We went to panels with Mariyama, Shot, and Ishiguro, and they were amazing panels. We learned amazing things.
Oh my god, that picture!
All right,
of Shot's panel
here's
of
the
him
recap.
In the 70s with Tezuka.
Yes, here's the recap. Fred Shot's amazing old school pictures of him with Tezuka and other like old anime clubs from way back in the day. Mariyama becoming an official member of the Otakon staff, getting a T-shirt and staff badge
An
from
honorary badge.
staff badge from Jim Valls, and Ishiguro going on a big rant about, the Japanese government wasting money on an anime and manga museum when they should be spending the money to preserve old anime and manga, which are getting destroyed. Whereas, he compared it to Disney in the U.S., which keeps Snow White in a giant tunnel so that it will, be preserved forever.
Well, like one example, Mushi to preserve Astro Boy would have cost about $3,000 per episode.
Digital preservation. Digital, right?
Yes, $3,000 an episode.
They're spending like billions of yen to make this museum and create government jobs when they could be spending it to preserve thousands of anime episodes and movies.
Yeah, well, if we have time at the end, we'll talk about those panels in more detail. But those panels were all great.
But those are all awesome panels on Saturday and Sunday. And if you go to a con and you're not going to these kinds of panels, what are you going for, really? I mean, it was just so sad. These are in small panel rooms, and they weren't really full.
I mean, Ishiguro, they ran out of questions to ask him in the audience.
That's why he went on his rant, which I think was actually better than questions from the audience, which sucked.
Yeah, plus people always ask the same questions. Is
well,
there going to be more Legend of the Galactic Heroes?
No. There was a resurgence of LOGH fandom, which all the questions asked of him were LOGH questions. Talk about the For Tax Reasons panel that we didn't talk about.
I was going to get to that, actually.
Yeah.
But for tax reasons, they did all like she's a bombshell or I'm in your manger, all that stuff.
Yep.
The Pirates of Silicon Valley.
Not Pirates of Silicon Valley. It's Community College DX, whatever.
What was it? It was called something else though too, wasn't it? Wasn't there a subtitle?
Pirates of Dark
Water. That was
Community
it.
College DX. Yeah.
But the guys who did Venture Brothers.
No, they didn't.
I know. But that was their whole shtick, was that everyone thinks that the guys who do the Venture Brothers, but they're not.
Right. They had a similar style.
But they gave actually an awesome panel, even though half the panel was just showing the movies again. But even though I've seen the movies
they also
a million
showed
times,
the final part, which contained a giant robot fight.
It
is now
premiered.
available online.
You spoiled it.
Oh, no.
In case they haven't seen it yet. Those guys are super cool, and I want to interview them or do stuff with them in the future.
Yeah, I mean, they're friends with Dave and Joel, Dave Riley, and Emily knows them because she went to school with them, and we know them from this, and there's a lot of connections going on there. We need to take advantage of.
I really want to get them hooked up at PAX East because I think they would go over really well.
They
with
would
that
go
audience.
over really well at PAX East, I agree.
Plus, they're really funny in person. Like, sometimes you have the situation where someone can do something cool, like they have a webcomic or something like that, but they're not really funny in person. These guys are hilarious.
Or you get
in
the situation
person.
like Randall Monroe, where he is really funny in person, but he's just really shy.
Yeah. But these guys are Dave and Joel style funny just in person.
All right. So what else do you have to cover here? You want to talk about the closing ceremonies and the feedback? We
should skip over a bunch of stuff and just kind of rush to the end here because we've gone on for a while.
The thing is, I think we've sort of covered everything. I mean, can you think of anything we didn't talk about?
I can think of a lot of interesting things to talk about.
Like?
Mostly, it was things that came from the feedback ceremony, not the feedback ceremony, the feedback session and the closing ceremonies. Like one, closing ceremonies, they announced all the dates and everything for next year. They pushed the dates back a little bit. And they showed the opening animation of Otakon again, which was again done by Madhouse and which was again awesome. Jim Voles was drawn as Jabba the Hutt.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I remember that now. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
And I just still like the other one better. I think that by making it, while it was sort of funny for us putting all those staff people into it because we knew who they were, right? I mean, that's sort of like for the staff. I mean, most of the con-goers don't get it, and I don't think it's as enjoyable for the con-goers.
Well, the thing is, though, it's cool because it's this inside anime thing.
It is cool. I do like it. I definitely keep doing it. It's definitely awesome. But
no, you're missing the point because I think they're gonna do this every year from now on.
Oh yes, but I think that making all the jokes like with these the faces of the staff.
No, Scott, they're not. I don't think they're going to next year. Notice how the style was very different too. I think every year they're going to change it up a lot because
I
it's
agree.
Madhouse.
I didn't say they're gonna do it next year. I said that doing it this year sort of, made it less enjoyable for many of the con goers who didn't get it.
Well, what I'm saying is that I think
why does Jabba the Hutt have an ugly face?
I think doing it
they
that
don't realize
way,
it's a staffer. They don't know the staffer.
I think doing it that way was kind of this homage to fandom culture, because you look at fandom culture, like anime cons, sci-fi cons, like where these cons really started in the 70s. And that style of homage was like the thing to do.
Yes, but including I'm saying that style of homage is definitely the thing to do. It's the same style you see in like the Daikon animation, including Star Wars, right? But including the staff is the part that I think...
including staff and in-jokes like that was the style of the times.
No, I've never seen that. But anyway, regardless...
have you ever been to like an old gaming con where they do shit like that?
Regardless, I think including the staff reduced the appeal of that particular opening animation for the con goer. So
I think it was...
I would have just, but it was still great. It was it's a slight complaint, very tiny.
See, I disagree, and I think that putting it there was great because it makes that year really stand out. Every year is going to stand out. I mean, the first one stands out because it was the first one and because they had the exploding manhole covers.
Yeah.
This one will stand out because it was, all the staff, and next year is going to stand out because it'll be like super flat or something.
Maybe. We'll see
I
what
think every year
year
they're going to do something cool.
Yeah. You can definitely tell, though, that, while the animation is great, it is definitely the Madhouse B team. I mean, if you look at what the Madhouse, or at least they're not putting A-team effort into it, even if it is the A-team. Because you look at Madhouse A-team animation, and it's like, whoa. And you look at this, and it's great animation. But it definitely looks like an anime from a few years back. And they're not putting in, the full, the kind of effort they would put into like a big movie.
One funny thing, Murayama...
obviously it's unreasonable to expect that. I'm just pointing it out.
One funny thing Murayama did point out in his panel, because people kind of pointed out that, your shows kind of peter out, or, no sequels or anything like that. And he basically said, I kind of get bored halfway through any series. I just want to do something new.
Yeah, he's like, he always wants to do something new, and he doesn't like doing sequels or repeats or extending something too long. And I think if you look at it, Madhouse doesn't really do the long shows like the Dragon Balls or whatever, and they don't do a lot of sequels either. So it's, I think that's something to say. That's a big plus for Madhouse.
Of course, it was also interesting, Madhouse's, their perspective, because someone asked, there's that Trigun movie coming, and someone actually asked, it was like one of the few good questions at the con, why a Trigun movie? I thought it was very unpopular in Japan, and it was okay popular in the US. And the manga didn't really sell and all that sort of stuff. And his answer was basically that we're not releasing Trigun for a Japanese audience or an American audience. We're releasing it for the worldwide Trigun audience. It's a Western. Westerns aren't really popular in Japan because they're difficult for the Japanese zeitgeist to wrap around. There isn't all the history and knowledge.
And I think that's definitely the attitude that not just anime, but all industries in the world need to start having. Too many people are doing targeted marketing, I mean, even look at the way the world of advertising is structured these days, right? Let's say we sold ads on Geeknights, right? Well, I'd say a good large portion of our audience is outside the US, right? Let's say the U.S. arm of some company, their advertising agent bought ads from us. They would only pay us for our U.S. listeners, even though they're getting the international listeners. It's just, we're in a global world, and too many companies are still operating on a single country or regional mindset. And really, everything you do these days has to be operated on a completely global mindset. If you're making a video game, just sell it to the whole world at once, immediately. Valve has figured this out, but Nintendo hasn't,
But Murayama and Madhouse have clearly figured this out.
They've clearly figured it out,
I mean, the other
and
part
that's a good
was
plus for them.
We couldn't make it more palatable to a Japanese audience because then it wouldn't be Trigun anymore, so what's the point?
And there is, regardless of region, there is a big enough worldwide Trigun audience to support a Trigun movie.
Think about that. There is not a big enough Trigun audience in any one place, but there's a big enough one in aggregate to where they can make this movie that if they just made this like in Japan for Japanese people and there wasn't this worldwide audience, or if they tried to like sell it only in Japan or tried to, then package it and move it somewhere, it would have failed or wouldn't have gotten done. But by taking this global perspective, we're going to get a Trigun movie, and I'm really looking forward to that because I think Trigun is one of the better and more interesting anime out there, partly because it's different.
Even though the manga's bad.
The manga, incomprehensible gibberish.
One interesting thing I did at the Bandai Entertainment panel, which is blah, and it was very unprofessional, I think. It was actually sort of a bad panel.
Well, because what anime industry is there? What's Bandai going to do?
I know, but one thing I did learn at that panel that was very good, right, is remember we saw Sword of the Stranger? Bandai Entertainment has that. That's their show, their
Yep.
movie, right? And it's on DVD, I think, now. And they talked about how they showed it in theaters. They're going to show the Eureka 7 movie in theaters the same way they showed Sword of the Stranger, which I think is very good. And
Yeah.
I look forward to them putting more things in theaters. And while I'm not sure if I like Eureka 7 or not, I've never watched it. Apparently, I asked around, and the movie can be watched separate from the TV show. So when that's in the theaters, let's go. There you go. We'll go see it the same way you saw Sword of the Stranger.
Yep.
And
But again-
hopefully they will continue to put their movies in the theaters like that, and we'll continue to go see them.
See all this cool stuff that we got from these panels that no one goes to? These are the panels to go to. It's all the cool stuff happens.
I know, right? Where are you going?
Why are you going to
You're
the
going to
Geeknights
like that.
panels?
You're going to like that Survive the Zombie Apocalypse panel every single year,
Or
just the
that-
same lame shit
that
all
stupid
the time.
Dungeons and Dragons
When you
panel.
could be going and listening to the director of Macross, Legend of the Galactic Heroes, and Space Battleship Yamato talk about, like Japan and how they're just wasting their money and such and such. What's better? All right, where are your priorities?
Yep. Or
I
like,
guess though, if you're listening to this podcast, you're probably not making this mistake.
yeah, like Hajime no Ippo was the last cell animated show at Madhouse.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing to learn.
Yeah, there you go. One little thing.
Hmm.
And that their biggest focus was to not make it look like it wasn't cell animated anymore. And they
Yeah,
spent more time on that
he
than they
talked
did.
about how the newer season was digitally animated, but like they're like, look, the cell animated and the digital animated looks the same, so that like they proved a point by doing that, but they, it's just not economically feasible to do the cells anymore. It's just more it's just a lot of work that's sadly unnecessary, when you could do it with a computer. So, that's it.
Otakon was fantastic, but there were a bunch of interesting things I want to note. One, the escalators worked for almost the entire con, and that is crazy and amazing.
Yep.
For the first time, like, ever.
Yep, very good. Two, they're sort of lax in badge checking. Sometimes they would be very strict and they want to see the hologram. Sometimes they wouldn't check at all. I could walk in with like the badge in my pocket.
You could just walk in without a badge most of the time. It was kind of sad.
Yeah, they really need to step up the badge checking. But Otakon, this is the responsibility of the security, the hired security mostly. And Otakon knows that the hired security basically sucks. Here's an example of the hired security sucking. I was in Artist Alley. The Artist Alley men's bathroom was out of order. There was a unisex bathroom, though, but of course it only has one toilet because it's mostly a handicap bathroom. That
Also, apparently-
bathroom was broken last year also. So over an entire year, they didn't fix it, right?
Two, there's a bathroom right outside the exit to the Artist Alley.
Yep, I went out. I just went immediately outside of the exit.
It's like 10
literally.
feet. Like, it's right there.
I exited the Artist Alley, went into that bathroom that's immediately outside the exit, and then I went to the security guy, and he said, it's exit only. I'm like, I know it's exit only, but seriously, I just went in this bathroom. I'm like, I know it's exit only. There's not really a crowd here right now. Just let me in, dude. And he wasn't mean, but he was like, sorry, dude, can't. He couldn't just be like, okay, go in. He was a security guy. I think it was a blue or a red shirt. I don't remember.
It was a blue shirt. I had the
I
same
think he might have
trouble.
been red. Anyway, but he wouldn't let me back in. I had to walk all the way around. And I understand the traffic flow issue. That should be exit only. I agree. But seriously, I just went to the bathroom. There wasn't a traffic flow situation at the moment. He could have just been like, okay, dude, go in, right? But he wasn't cool and he wasn't
Thing
improvising.
is, there's nothing Otakon can do about that.
No, but it's just,
It's just the
a
BCC.
quality security staff would have not had this
I
problem.
don't think we'll ever get a quality security staff at Otakon. I think it's impossible.
I think they just gonna have to pay. I think
I think they do. I'll bet. This is total speculation. I'll bet the BCC has a list of approved bonded security consultancies,
and they all suck.
and you have to use one of them, and they all suck.
And maybe there's one that does. I think if there's one that doesn't suck and is very expensive, I think it might be worth it.
Yeah, but I'll bet there isn't.
Yeah, I don't know what the situation is there. All I know is that they have to explore any possibility whatsoever of getting a different or better security
There was
staff.
apparently
Because they're obviously not going to get these people to do a better job, so the only way they can fix it is to take their money elsewhere, if possible.
there was apparently a situation where a bunch of people dressed up as straight up SS like Gestapo soldiers,
Yep.
and they had perfect cosplays of this, and a small number of people at the con were super offended, and they raised a big stink in the forums, but it looks like Otakon is taking the correct policy of not going down the road of censoring cosplay that doesn't violate otherwise very clearly marked rules like don't be naked.
Yes, I can understand if the people were actually Nazis, if they were actually, KKK people, if they were actually spreading hate or acting in a hateful manner at the convention, immediately you can just kick them out and no one's going to complain. But if someone just happens to have a costume with swastikas on it or whatever, I mean, I have a Doom Megalopolis cosplay with swastikas on. I
Or
mean, that's a
what?
legitimate.
Hitler,
I mean, I'm a Jew,
Hitler
and that's a legitimate
no
cosplay.
Fukatsu. Hitler no Fukatsu is a Japanese video game. I can dress up like Master D if I want to.
Yes, that is a legitimate cosplay. And if you're not actually spreading hate or being hateful or anything like that or doing anything inappropriate, a cosplay that has a symbol on it isn't hurting anyone. And it's perfectly appropriate.
But here's the thing.
Especially if it's a cosplay
I don't
from an
wanna
anime,
dwell on
manga, video game, etc.
I don't want to dwell on it because Otakon seems to have taken the right position and said, you know what? No, we're not going to do anything about this.
Very good. Very good.
There was the so-called 4chan rickrolled the con.
Yeah, I don't think it was 4chan,
Well,
but
so,
anyway.
Scott, well, what do you mean you don't think it was 4chan? It wasn't the staff of 4chan,
No.
but that doesn't mean, that's not what people mean.
No
when
one
they say
really
4chan.
knows. The point is that there was a philosophy of Bleach panel that was approved and scheduled.
But it was
people-
based, well, we can sum this up real quick because I don't want to dwell on it.
Mm-hmm.
Quote the Otakon staff when it was brought up at con feedback. Yeah, we basically just got rickrolled by that.
They came and ran was supposed to be a philosophy of Bleach panel, but was actually they just dicked around and did stupid shit and gave out goodie bags that had like quote gay porn in them and who knows what else happened there. I didn't go. I'm just repeating what I heard post hoc, and it was they closed the panel down as soon as they realized what was going on, and that was a very appropriate closing the panel down.
Here's the problem. I am fairly certain that after this year, there's going to be a lot more of that next year at all the cons. And the only way around that is to have good people vetting out panels. But
the thing is, right, they can't actually vet the panels because nobody at any con can actually watch.
well, there is one way too, and it is to take a more active role and to solicit good stuff as opposed to just relying on fans submitting.
Yes, they have an open, they have the industry submits their panels, but then they have an open submission. I think the cons really need to, you're never going to be able to look at the panels or screen them beforehand. That's not going to happen. That's impossible. I agree. What you can do is go and actively solicit panels. Go and say, we want panel X. Then go and look for someone out in the world who can run panel X. Say, hey, we want you, Raymond Scott. We know that you're great at this. Please come and run this panel
like,
at our con.
Anime Boston.
Right.
They were like, come to our con. What do you mean?
Exactly. Instead of saying, who wants to do panels, say, we want you to do panels. We want you to do panels. We want you to do panels. And even better, we want you to do this panel. We want you to do this panel. And that eliminates any possibility of rickrolling, or at least it greatly decreases the chance of rickrolling because you're not going to get, no one's going to be able to just submit their rickroll panel. You're going to go out and ask for panels from people. And, you're going to get to have a better, the con will have more control over the content that is at the con, and it's just a better thing overall, even though it's more work, but it's not an impossible amount of work. It is an impossible amount of work to screen all the panels, but it's not an impossible amount of work to solicit the panels.
But we've dwelled on that forever, and a few cons are taking us up on it, but not every con.
Yep, Anime Boston solicited us. We had to solicit Otakon. So there you go.
Connecticon took whatever panels we wanted to run.
They gave us a whole panel room, and they said yes to whatever we put in.
The con feedback session, I'm going to do a thing about this later. I noted every single question people asked.
Whoa.
And 90% of them were stupid questions. I'm sorry, people.
Yes, I have this is a feedback about the con feedback, and it's actually also sort of a feedback about panels in general, is that people don't know how to ask questions. They suck dick at asking questions, and there needs to be some sort of question asking filter. Here are some possible question asking filters. Number 1, instead of people walking up to the microphone and asking questions, have them walk up to a staffer and ask them the question. The staffer will write the question down on paper, and then when it's time for a new question...
Here's the problem.
Right.
Everyone walks up, and first of all, the staff will be like, look, just be quick, and you only get to have one feedback. And then for the first 3/4 of the panel, every single person has like 4 feedbacks, and they don't shut them up. If they let people use the microphone... They need to literally just like cut people off.
It's like,
nope,
it's strange. It's like they have no problem like being mean towards con goers outside, but at the feedback panel they have to be super nice to them. And like it's like that is the time to shut someone up. Like, they should have they should be able to turn the microphone. If you're gonna let people walk up to the mic, at least give someone the ability to turn it on and off. So turn it off as soon as the person has asked their first question and don't let them speak anymore.
But everyone gets in line is like, my name is blah, and I've been going to Otakon for X years, and to this day, no one has taken the thunder out of those sails. You like my mixed metaphor there?
You can say who you are.
No. Better than our friend Peter Olson, who 2 or 3 years ago at the con walked up and he was like, "Hi, my name is Pete. I've been going. This is my 400th Otakon." And
it's okay to say who you are and how many Otakons you've been to. That's okay. But then your question should be 1 or 2 sentences, and that's it. I mean, that's it. You're done. You shouldn't be sitting up there explaining. You know, if you want to do that, make a podcast like we do, where you can spend 2 hours explaining.
Here's the thing. It used to be that the problem with feedback was that it's a million cosplay things. I think because Otakon runs the masquerade in the arena, there was almost nothing about the masquerade in this. So
that was very strange because, I mean, usually you expect a ton of masquerade feedback to the point at which we would suggest doing what Anime Boston does and separating masquerade feedback and regular feedback. But actually, Otakon had barely any masquerade feedbacks. Most of the feedbacks were related to, things like Daryl Surratt's panel getting shut down, the 4chan panel.
Oh my God, pretty much
bad security, et cetera, et cetera. Things we've already mentioned.
To sum up the entire panel, the most asked question was, "I'm stupid and I either didn't read the book or have a really ludicrous idea that Otakon could never do."
Yep.
The second most common thing was, "You shut down the best panel at the con. Seriously, Daryl Surratt's panel."
Yep.
And number 3, mail out the badges. Oh my God.
Yep.
That was it.
Yeah, they really need to rework the feedback panel. Maybe even not having it at all, right? Because even having the feedback panel has these various suggestions that go, it suggests certain things. PAX doesn't have a feedback panel. Why is there feedback? Why should you come and why should our panel close on this negative note of everyone fucking complaining? Why should you even be allowed to complain? If you want to complain, send us an email or come to the forum later. The con is not the time to complain.
Well, here's one thing, though.
There's an argument to be had there.
I enjoy the feedback panels.
I enjoy it, too, but I'm just saying there's an argument to be made.
But it's really simple to fix the feedback panel. 1, only let people give 1 feedback and then make them go to the end of the line. 2, before the first 15 minutes, go through all the things that people are going to ask and you're already aware of.
And just answer them off the bat and say, if you ask about any of the things we just said, you're going to sit down and you're not going to ask.
But, I mean, seriously, because people every year, people ask the same 10 questions.
It's like we sit down for the feedback panel and we already know what the big topics are going to be. So if they would just address if they know what they are too, they know that, this panel was shut down, that was a big deal. This is a big deal, that was a big deal. Just address the big deals right away and then say, if you have a question about anything else,
I mean, seriously,
come up and
every
say
year
something.
there's the person who was like, "Why don't you get a panel about X?" And every year Otakon staff is like, "Well, we can only get panels if people submit them. If you want to do the panel, that'd be great." And then every year they say the exact same thing because someone asks the exact same question.
Yep.
It's like someone always...
I could understand if you were not there in previous years, if it's your first Otakon. I could understand if it's your first feedback panel. I could understand if you came into the feedback panel late. Regardless... That's tough because there's 1,000 people in that room who aren't you. So send an email later.
All right, we should just cut this short. But
I think we're done. We talked about the feedback panel. I'm sure there's stuff we missed. We covered as much as we could. Episode's going to be long. It needs to be long.
To sum it all up,
Otakon was great.
This was my favorite Otakon in a long time. It was super awesome.
I've been to 7 Otakons. It's definitely in the top 3 or 4. It might be the 4th best.
We met a bunch
of
awesome people. Everything was great except the few complaints we had. However, if I have to stand in a 3-hour reg line, I might not go back as much as I love Otakon.
Yeah, they gotta mail the badges. No excuses.
Whatever it takes, mail those badges because Otakon is
even if it means one less Japanese musical guest, if it means,
I don't care if I have to pay 20 more. I would pay 20 or $30 just to not have to stand in line.
Yeah, in fact, making Otakon more expensive, while it even might reduce attendance, which Otakon, I think they just really don't want to do anything that will reduce attendance. They're really obsessed with the numbers.
But at the same time, they don't
I think
advertise.
it would actually make the con a better con if they raise the price and also advertise.
I think if Otakon advertised, they could get 10,000 more people, but I don't know if they could handle that.
No, but I think if they raise the price of the badge and use that money to mail the badges and market, that I think it would balance out. Because with that extra money, they would be able to mail the badges and handle more people. So there you have it.
So Otakon 2009, super awesome, and I'm going to bed.
Yep. The end.
This has been Geek Nights with Rim and Scott. Special thanks to DJ Pretzel for the opening music.
Be sure to visit our website at www.frontrowcrew.com, where you'll find show notes, links, our awesome forum, a link to our Frapper map, and links to all the RSS feeds.
We say feeds plural because Geek Nights airs 4 nights a week, covering 4 different brands of geekery. Mondays are science and technology. Tuesdays, we have video games, board games, and RPGs. Wednesdays are anime, manga, comic nights. And Thursdays are the catch-alls for various rants and tomfoolery.
You can send us feedback by email to geeknights@frontrowcrew.com. Or you can send audio feedback via audio. Just click the link that says Send Me an Audio on the right side of our website.
If you like what you hear, you can catch the last 100 episodes in iTunes or in your favorite podcatcher. For the complete archives, visit the website, which has everything.
Geeknights is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial Share-alike 2.5 license. This means you can do whatever you want with it as long as you give us credit, don't make money, and share it in kind. Geeknights is recorded live with no studio and no audience. But unlike those other late shows, it's actually recorded at night.